Welcome back into episode 2 of the Inside Drift, where we finish our top 20 greatest MKW T tiers of all time. I am Spencer Sasick, and today I'm joined by Matthew Young and Riley Carroll, and we are so excited to wrap up our lists and get into the top 10. How are we feeling, guys?
We did it. We made it to episode 2.
Yeah.
How many Enmead series have we surpassed in total episodes?
I like 60%
how many do you guys
of
think?
them. Yeah.
Probably
Dude,
a lot.
No, we're doing
we're next up.
we're doing real good.
I'm so proud of us.
We are next up. This is like
Guys,
this is like goat trajectory.
I think we have a chance
honestly.
at episode 3.
I mean, we're good. We get to episode 3 and we're on pace to make it on this list. So.
Yeah, dude, I'm so proud of us.
Yeah, no.
Thank you to all of our fans who helped us get.
Yeah,
this
thank
far.
you for all of us who watched our first Yap Sesh and decided they wanted to come back for more. So, really appreciate that.
How about you, Matt? How are you doing?
You know, I'm doing good, man. I've been raring to finish up talking about these lists since we did the first part of the pod, so I'm just excited to get on with it.
More like since we did the first part of our planning, which is going to be like a month before this even is uploaded.
Yeah.
So
we did part 1 a couple days ago, and now we're back.
Today?
Yeah, so today, as of recording,
something
is
special
August
happened.
4th. Something special happened today.
Yeah.
You know, I heard there was a new record on Maple Treeway.
There was.
And, this is interesting. It's something that, potentially could hurt my list. I had Demon at number 20, and, he got another world record today, right, guys?
No, he actually lost a lot of aura.
What?
Yeah, I think this is favoring you over me and Spencer, but especially Spencer,
dude.
Man. You had him up at 11, and he lost a record to Corbin?
Oh, boy. This isn't a good look.
I mean, here's the thing.
This is not a good look. There's not a single other player in my list or anyone else's list who's lost a world record to Corbin.
Corbin's had MT world record.
Yeah.
J. Cool had MT world record.
Troy.
Oh, man.
Who else? What is Demon doing? What is he doing to get so many MT world records? Well, what are the skeletons in his closet that we're not talking about?
Well, I mean, Sword.
He's a pharmacist.
Sword also.
Does he happen to be a street pharmacist?
Oh my God!
Sword got it too.
Too.
Yeah, he had the first one or the second one. It was with
no,
Mario.
he had the third.
Oh,
no.
wow.
Dude, put some respect on Troy and Marco.
Or Marco had the second one?
This is some rough association for Demon.
Wait, who else has had MT glitch record over the years?
Shy Guy.
Can we pull another name out of here? Not really.
Long John Marv.
Oh, Long John Marv. That's tough. Then you got Pause Buffer Man himself. Yeah, no.
Who is Pause Button guy himself?
Buffer, Justin.
Oh,
Justin.
Oh, Justin. Okay. I understand what you were cooking.
Yeah, okay. Well, with that, do we want to get into the top 10?
I guess we can.
Yeah, I think so.
Knowing that I ranked Demon better than all of you. Now we can get in the top 10. But we can't start at the top 10.
No, we got to start with
because
Riley's
we left
11.
off. Yeah, we stopped off at number 11 with me.
We did. He will be mine and Matt's 10 as well. So we just figured we'd start the list with him. But who is this?
It is Justin.
Pause Buffer Man himself.
There he is.
This was a kind of ranking. If you had asked me like 3 or 4 years ago, I would have had a hard time putting him this low. Or this low on the list. Because, at that point he was a champion of the players page. He had this crazy timesheet, a decent amount of world records, maybe not that many world records, but just like, solid times on, it felt like every category, right? But as for how new of a player he is, he just didn't age that well. He set 35 world records over 6 years, 12 uniques, and none of them really stand out to me. He had a couple of, really solid world records. I think what he did to change DDR was good, but he was never really an optimizer. He was an implementer, an innovator, coming up with new strats or adding in new strats and getting record with it. But he didn't really push it beyond there. And I think that's really where his weakness is, and why he doesn't have the 1,000-day world records that the players he's competing against do.
For sure. But that's also his greatest superpower because, like, if you just looked at his raw numbers, you couldn't have him at 10, I don't think. Even factoring in players page champion and the timesheet dominance he had. But, I mean, this is where I stray from my core values. You have to make an exception for Justin. It's just so intertwined with his legacy. He is perhaps the best no glitch innovator or just RTA innovator that we've ever had. I mean, he did MH drift storage first, I believe. He was the first world record with it. He learned MG hopless. I'm not sure. Again, first world record with it. I don't know if he was the first to do it. Like Riley mentioned, he really pushed DDR. Luke implemented the first shrimless, but Justin was the one who started doing everything 3 for 3. Or 3 for 3, tomb exit, 2 for 3 shrimless, or 2 for 2. Obviously, Goldmine right path, which is so unintuitive yet so obvious, but he deserves all props for finding an unfound almost 0.2 per lap time save. And then
that wasn't Justin, that was Wario.
It was Wario. Wario
was telling us the whole time.
And then finally Parkway. And I mean, he doesn't get credit there because I guess he pause buffered, and I mean, it's a little bit sad to have that time not be as a world record, but I understand. But no, that's like 5 crazy no glitch innovations that were largely down to like his own research and findings. And it's like that's how, for me, that's what keeps him in the top 10 basically. But I totally agree. There isn't like a standout record. He wasn't optimizing tracks. He did a little bit on DDR, but in the sense that he set world records, he persisted a little bit longer, but he didn't really take it to like the Infi standard of the track with all the new strats.
Was Justin the one who found Parkway, or was that Scorpy?
I'm fairly sure it was Justin. I mean, Scorpy has a run with it, but Scorpy's run. I mean, how confident are you about that? Because you could be like right, and I have no.
I'm at a point of like a complete coin flip with it. I just can't remember which of them it was. I know it was one of those two, though.
I'm pretty sure it was Justin because I thought the world record just dropped out of nowhere.
I feel like there was a little lead up, but maybe I'm misremembering.
I could be misremembering too. I mean, either way, he gets at least some of the credit in my book, even if the world record doesn't count anymore. He was the guy who showed you that it was possible, not just possible, but just that it was easily the future. It is so much more consistent. It's faster. I think it's also really funny. You look at the run that's on leaderboards today, it's a high 6, and it's like he couldn't do the cut, at least when he set the run. Like, he was doing the new cut, but they were some scuffed cuts. But the cuts he get in his record aren't like current world record caliber cuts, but they're a lot better.
Yeah. I think it's also important to mention that I'm pretty sure on DDR, he's the one who implemented the modern sand hop strat.
Yes. I totally forgot about that.
Was it him who implemented the tomb exit? That was Luke. But he was the first to do the... I forget, did he do right side?
Yeah, he did right side on lap 3.
Lap 3?
Yeah. And he also did the exit into Ultra, which Luke wasn't doing.
Dude, I'm still not sure if that's faster. Unless you get like a really good low.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm no DDR player, so I can't speak to it like that. But no, it definitely doesn't look like it saves that much time if it really does. But I know a lot of online players also just really like going for that.
Yeah. I think it's also important to note that even on some things where he wasn't, the first one to get it, he was right there with them, on Treeway glitch. He was going for it at the same time that Troy was, getting some decent attempts at the clip. And also on Rainbow Road glitch back when it was the spear strat only, I think he was the closest person to making it, even though he never ended up quite doing it. On RDH, he
Yeah, I think he's a little
implemented the more
closer.
modern drift exit to the glitch that saves a ton of time.
Hmm.
Yeah, just like everywhere he went, something new followed.
We probably missed something too. We probably did not cover all of his little new strats, optimizations, and stuff.
Oh, he was
And I
woodless
think,
on MC, I think.
yes, I forgot to write that down. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, good point.
Or wait, no, I did write it down. I just skipped over it. But yeah, no, the woodless stuff was crazy because that saved like an entire second.
There's
Yeah.
also the RDH strats.
Oh, Matt mentioned that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I completely missed that. I'm trying to figure out who. Look in the background, trying to figure out if it was Justin or Scorpy first. It looks like it was Justin who had the first ghost.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I mean
by a couple days.
the other thing though is like none of his world records held up well because again, he was always going to be the guy to kick off the revolutions on tracks. But just the fact that he accumulated 35 world records playing the way he did is still, I think, a lot of records. Obviously, that doesn't hold a candle to the guys as we get into like the top five and stuff. But compared to some of these other guys, I mean, it's going to be less, but 35 world records is still a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, having less than 1,000 days of no shortcut duration is a little bit rough. But again, that wasn't his role in this game. And I mean, the world record total time is probably like a second higher without Justin right now. So the work that he's done is incredibly impressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
I do want to mention.
And if you look at like, oh sorry, go ahead.
I actually have Justin at 9 on my list, not at 10.
Well, that's not what you said yesterday. I swear, or 2 days ago.
Bro, I never said I had him at 10. I don't know where you got that from.
Yeah, I guess I totally probably made that up. My bad.
But yeah, I mean, 35 records, 4,000-day duration. I do think, like maybe I'm a little high on this one, but I have a lot of respect for his 217, 990 on Koopa Cape. Only lasted 100 days, but getting that sub with the strats at the time was, I think, still a time that holds up decently today. I think it was only brought down to like a 217.7 before the modern pipe strats and the better shroomless exit was found. And
was he not the one who kind of contributed to finding that though? Because I thought the drift storage stuff on KC kind of went hand in hand with what he was doing on MH, but I could be wrong.
No. I think he was there with the drift storage, but instead of going into another drift immediately, doing the modern like wheelie strat wasn't a thing.
Yeah, you wheelie and then you chain drift. Okay. Yeah. I didn't know if you were talking about something else they did on the like actual exit MT. But yeah.
I mean, yeah. Unfortunately, most of his world records are pretty lackluster for someone this high on the list, but what needs to be mentioned is that his players page dominance was like really incredible, like certainly top 3 ever, along with 2 other guys that will be on this list. And I think he peaked as the second best player in the world in his heyday for a few years there.
Yeah, I agree. It was either second or third. I think it's tough because I don't really think he had an era where you could really point to him as the best in the world. That like high-end time setting was just not quite there. But no, I mean, there's a reason why he's this high. So with that, do we want to move on to your number 10, Riley?
Yes. My number 10 has already been mentioned. It's Chaos.
Okay.
I have him a lot higher than you guys did. Where'd you guys have him again?
I had him at 19, I believe.
I had him at 17.
Yeah. I'm a little
so a decent discrepancy here.
But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't get up to 10 high on him.
No, that's completely fair. So for Chaos, let's start off 40 world records on 10 uniques. He had a couple, 2008 records on GV, but at that point it was in the 20s. It wasn't optimized, but for 2008 standards, it wasn't, completely terrible. But then from there, entering 2009, especially mid to late 2009, going in all the way through 2011, pretty much. He was a very solid player, setting a bunch of world records, including the first 150 on TF, the first 156 on CM, first 148 on DDR. He basically had 4 to 5 concurrent world records from like the end of 2010 to early to mid 2012, which was a really competitive era. It was past the beginning rush of records, but players had really started to figure out the game, and optimize records, especially for that time period. It wasn't quite like today, right? But records were starting to not be beaten, every 5-10 days, or something, like every 5-10 days. Um, I think he just had a lot of. I think there was a clear time, throughout 2010, throughout 2011, where I think he was probably the best player in the world.
Yeah.
Um, and
Definitely.
yeah, and I think being the best in the world at that time, really tough, you know, kind of following up Brendan, and being, kind of in the same era as like Enmead and them, and being the best in that time is, I think, really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, we went
No.
into our spiels about chaos, and I think what really does like give him the potential upside to maybe be a top 10 guy all time is just that he peaked really, really high, like as clearly the best player in the world, I would say at his peak. Um, as you said, he has a lot of pretty decent records, but I just think this is a really tough list to crack the high spots on, and I just like some other guys more.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I think I was a little harsh at him, or harsh with him having him at 19, but I just really like some of the other guys in this range where it just becomes really, really debatable and subjective who you want to put where. He's certainly a top 20 guy. And I think the other thing that is like a really good metric for him is, I mean, if you kind of like adjust his world record duration, you throw out all of his GV no shortcut duration because that was nonsense, but you can give him back his like the rock stuff because he was the first guy who really had some strong times on that category. There's a little bit of like DKM shortcut nonsense there too, but that it comes out to like 2,500 days of duration, and doing that mostly between like 2009 to like 2012. I mean, considering he pretty much wasn't playing much after that, like that's really impressive to have racked up that much duration in a short period of time in the early part of the game. So I
Yeah,
think that's a like he's a very good player, and it's just
100%.
it's just tough to compare these guys from 2010 to 2012 to the guys who like broke into the scene in 2018 are still world record holders 8 years later. It's so hard to try to
Yeah.
weigh what you think matters more in that case.
It's also good to
yeah,
keep in mind he was like an infant when he set these
Dude,
records.
I know we talked
this
about
is
that
true.
last episode. He was literally
Yeah.
9 in 2008 when he set his first one, I believe, um, which is crazy. I mean, he was probably 10 when he set his first no shortcut record, but still, like, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. What were y'all doing when you were 9 and 10? Were we all
Uh,
automatic
I
cart
was
mains back in the day?
at 9. I had when was I 9? Like 2013. I was already watching Troy at this point. I was hitting my.
Okay,
I was
okay.
learning that the Flame Runner was the way. Um, I was about 70% on DK Summit single. About 10% on landing on the
how
rail
is
on
that even
RBC.
possible?
Um, you know,
Dude, I was playing
I
some.
was on the Wii wheel.
Well, I was too.
I would always get the reversal.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I thought you were just talking about
Oh,
strip
yeah.
falling off. I was like, how do you fall off the single 30% of the time? I get some nonsense happens every once in a while there with the fence, but no, I was playing Mario Mach on automatic on Wii Wheel. That's where I was at.
Yeah, I was a demon on Yoshi Wild Wing back in the day.
Dude, I just thought Mario was the best character because it was his game. I can't even lie.
I always I always thought Rosalina. I always played Rosalina
Okay,
Shooting Star.
pack it
I
up.
believe on automatic. No, because at that point I didn't know you could unlock it
Oh, the
without using Super Mario
galaxy.
Galaxy.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I'm like, dude, you have to have another game to get this character. She's got to be the best, you know. And the last track used
Rainbow Road.
Rosalina Shooting Star, or yeah, Rainbow Road used Rosalina Shooting Star. So I'm like, you know, and I think I had some trouble beating it.
Bro's like
So
dripped up for Rainbow Road. I mean, that's fair. I mean, like, yeah, usually when you need another game, like you need to buy something else to unlock a character. They usually make it better.
yeah.
So,
yeah,
although I doubt 9-year-old you was thinking like that.
I was a smart kid.
Yeah, I mean, it's just about exposure. I don't know if I mean, these
Actually,
companies don't want you to know that. So,
no, yeah. Now that I'm jogging my memory here, when I was like 9, I was in like third grade, right?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so in third grade, in my reading class, we had like this journal where we'd have to write like a page or something, for every once in a while. I remember the one journal I remember writing is I wrote one on like the top 5 Mario Kart Wii shortcuts.
What
If
was
I
your
had this journal
ranking?
and it wasn't like, I know I had the DK Summit double on it. That's the only one I remember.
You didn't have GV Rock?
I don't remember.
Bro, he might
I
not have
might
known
have. I
about
just don't
GV
remember.
Rock.
Nah, if you no, he was watching Troy, dude. He knows about GV Rock.
True,
Dude,
true.
I watched the Ninbuzz tutorial.
That was always like the one I
But
saw
yeah,
as like a kid. Like I
yeah,
didn't watch much YouTube when I was really young, but I know I did stumble upon a little bit of stuff. I have like vague memories of it. And to me like the rock hop always seemed like the most crazy like out
yeah.
of their shortcut. I guess I probably didn't see much, but it just always like felt like how is this even a drivable surface?
And now we're
I'm willing to
in
bet I had like
we're in 2026
GV
and
glitch or
still
something on it.
failing rock half the time in wars.
Yep. It's a terrible shortcut.
Guys, I think I'm gonna start going for Stop Rock.
I have no excuses, man. It's a
Anyway,
problem. So yeah, anyways, Matt, you want to tell us who you got at 10? If I was wrong about Justin, who's your actual number 10?
Yeah, so my actual number 10 is where I had Totem. Where do you guys have him?
okay.
I had him at 13.
I have him at number 9.
Okay. Okay. So,
Yeah,
I mean, Totem is just an incredible player, 33 world records, 30 of which on no glitch, 3 on glitch, over 6,000 days of total duration. And, like I said last episode, when I was initially making this list, I wasn't expecting it to have Totem top 10. I think his stocks have really dropped in recent years, but man, when I was just looking at his page, I was kind of blown away with how many like really quality records he set. Everybody remembers him for his Waluigi Stadium exploits. I mean, cutting the track all the way down to the first 148 way back in the day and then improving it with another one that lasted for almost 800 days. Not 800, 1800 days with his 148 861. But it's not just Stadium. I mean, on Treeway No Glitch, he had the legendary 216.884 world record with old strats that's like basically just the tutorial run for like this is how to play Treeway the right way. I think he was the one he might have been the one to implement the first of the old Shroomless cuts on Koopa Cape, getting his 219, and also on Highway, getting a 143.333 that lasted for a little while. Totem was just, an incredibly fundamentally sound player for the time who I think had a really great ability to be consistent with applying simpler strats in a way that was pretty quick. He was the Players Page champion for almost 2 years, from mid 2013 to mid 2015. Was clearly the best player in the world, peaked at 5 world records. Yeah, what is there to say about him? He was just a really complete player all around. And the only thing really holding him back is just a lack of longevity, as he left the game in maybe not the best of ways.
Yeah, could you imagine like where he'd be ranked on this list if Fox never came along?
I
His
mean, yeah,
motivation doesn't go away nearly as hard.
It would be
Like
interesting.
where does he go from there, right?
yeah.
If he would keep playing, or if he would still move to Rocket League, um, what would happen there? But yeah, I mean, I completely echo everything Matt said. I think his stadium dominance is just. I think it's almost it's got to be unlike anything we'd ever seen at that time in the game's history. Um,
It
just
was,
battling over and over again through the 151s and the 150s, and then getting once you get to that low 150, he just takes over and takes it down like another you know 1.2 1.3 seconds.
yeah,
I mean, and just and that was 20. He set his last record on Stadium in 2013. Lasted 1,700 days, and he set his last record in overall in almost 2 years later. You know, he was still. It wasn't like that was his last record. He kept playing. He never came back to the track, but he kept setting records. That 204 in RDS sticks out to me. I completely agree. Sorry, the 204.8. His MH time is filthy for the time. I mean, that's still a pretty decent time. Maybe not a worldwide tops level, but I mean, for a decent driver, that's a decent time, right? Um, but yeah, not too much more to add. Just a very sound, consistent player.
Yeah, no, and I think I was a little bit low on him. I wish I would have had him more around my 11 spot. He really does have a lot of more standout records for the time than you might think. And honestly, I don't know. I don't know. I think there could be an argument to be made. There's really not that much different between the quality of his MT run with those strats and the quality of the RWS run with the strats. It's just that one of them happened to have a guy named Demon competing with him, implementing things like Tash Jack and then turn skip and stuff. Because that time he has on Maple is sick. The one
Yeah,
record I'm a little bit, or the one track I'm a little bit more iffy on with him is KC. And personally, I'm
that's
just
fair.
really unfamiliar with this history because at the time, Mander would have had record by like a second. I guess it was before Totem that he would have been like caught or whatever. Like his time's not allowed, but that still had lasting consequences on where the track was. So it feels a little bit weird to me. I mean, Casey's just overall has a really weird history, and it's also just a hard and inconsistent track as well. But one more thing I wanted to say about RWS is like I think a lot of people forget like he was battling with people in the pre-turn skip days. Like him and Rocky um, had a crazy battle for the end of 2009 into 2010, and then when Jarv implements turn skip, the track is literally his a couple months later, and he just runs away with it. So I think like and I think, like you guys said, it really gets forgotten. The RWS run is set in 2013, and he is still setting records well into 2015. And at that, he's setting some pretty strong ones too. It's just like, I think he gets really lucky with, or not really lucky, but his RWS duration is really long. And then some of these other tracks, like Maple's duration, is barely over a year. And that's like on the more unfortunate side of how a record like that's going to age. So I think that also unfortunately just gives him the people get the impression that he was more of a one track guy than he actually was, despite
Yeah.
being the Players Page champion. So no, Totem great player. Again, I think it's a little bit sad that he just had this dude who beat him and just crashed out and left. But I already said my little piece about that. Um, so no, Totem, awesome player and um, very much deserving to be in this portion of the list. So
I think we have
Matt,
everybody's
you
tens.
yes, and you got your 9 out of the way with Justin.
Yes.
Riley, who do you have at your 9 spot?
I have Totem. I already said that.
Oh shit. Okay. So then it goes to me. At my 9, I got Connor. Although I'm high on
Man,
Connor, I know, Matt, you are just as high, if not higher, because I think you have him one spot above
I
here.
do. I have Connor at 8.
I mean, I agree with all that you're going to have to say about Connor. I'm going to let you start the propaganda, though. What do you got to say about Connor?
Okay, so I mean, Connor is just so good, man. Let's start off with some of the stats. 31 world records, all on no glitch, close to a 5,000 day duration, which at this point in the list isn't, super crazy, but he's just like the times that he's gotten are just incredible. I mean, GV no glitch 150.877, that's the current world record. It's been standing for it's closing in on 2 years at this point. RWS no glitch 147.732 reclaimed that from Tiles. That's a really, really respectable record. His DK Summit 144.5 was just an absolute haymaker, and it's kind of crazy that like it didn't end up standing for very long, less than a year, but I guess that's what happens when you're on DK Summit and Blake is also on DK Summit. And then, he was one of the main pushers of Mushroom Gorge back in the day when Hopless was first a thing. He came up with the Connor skip strategy, and getting it all the way down to a 741 was really, really impressive before Alperin came around and just kind of took it to even higher level. But I think what Connor has going for him is that his records are generally quite strong. He's in general is just really good on all the tracks that he plays. Unfortunately, he doesn't play all the tracks. He doesn't have a real time sheet. I think he does technically have times on all the tracks, but some of them are just like random one-offs from I think back in like 2018, maybe even before that. Which, causes him to not have the greatest diversity, only 47 MKL points. I think he only ever peaked at 2 concurrent records, which is kind of crazy to think about.
He had three. He peaked at
he,
3, and then
he
he
got up to
also had
3.
Rock at the same time. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, I think what you have to talk about with Connor is he certainly peaked as a top 5 player in the game. I think I currently have him as the 4th best player, but he could be as low as 5. And yeah, I think he has an argument for being the greatest tech player of all time. Maybe
For sure.
one other guy in that conversation, but we'll get to him a little later.
Yeah, he's a little bit better at every other part of the game, but it's kind of like that for everybody else. And no, Connor would have more MKL points if Mushroom Gorge was a serious leaderboard and they were split properly. I think his time
That's true.
would probably be like 5th or 6th. He didn't improve it, but that's a discussion for a different day.
It'd be interesting to see how the leaderboards aged with the 3 mushroom skip boost panel strat.
Yeah, and again, it's like, oh yeah, and of course he's playing against people doing that and his time doesn't do it. But it's always going to be, even if the change is made and the leaderboards are fixed, we're still going to lose like 2 years of like community progression, which is a tough pill to swallow, but better late than never. But yeah, no, I think like you talk about Connor and his MKL. His MKL has some very silly times. Although 148.1 on Moonview Highway. He's the GOAT.
This is ridiculous, man.
Yeah. I actually think there's a ghost link too, which is even more ridiculous. I don't know which MKL mod put this on his MKL, but you should be ashamed of yourself. Like, what are we doing? But yeah.
Some James Villa stuff right there.
Dude, I forgot about it. It's been so long since we had James updating. But yeah, he's nearing it on 50% duration. He's only at 4 or 50, which is crazy because like we think of guys like Connor, not like the new guard like that we might have coming up now, but he is not like an old school player, and for him to be coming up on 50% duration is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think he's a good argument for the tech goat. It would be cool if he even if he didn't have a complete timesheet, like if he had, I know he's starting to play BCW right now, but if he had a killer BCW time, and I think that's the biggest tech track he's missing, but like one of the tracks that he's not like known for, but just the fact that he accomplished it, whereas so many people with the potential to like unfortunately failed. Getting record on Toad's Factory is just incredibly impressive.
Oh
Being
yeah.
consistently just a top three worldwide top three world record in the game for like the past 6-ish years. Um, with when Luke brought that to the standard it was at that time period. It's just like what he's done is so impressive. And then also it's not like he can drive. Like he had RMC worldwide tops a while back, and he almost does a 217 on MC3, which is a really impressive time. So it's not like
wow.
Oh,
217. He
117.
did it again.
Yeah. Sorry. If you subscribe, you're gonna you've signed yourself up for a lot of that. But no, Connor's a fantastic player. The biggest thing against him is just the fact that he competed in the modern era with two titans in it. So he never really had a shot at peaking his best in the world, but I think he's firmly in this top 10.
Yeah. One thing I want to add as well is that on the tracks that he really cares about, like, I think you're hard pressed to find one where he's not the best player in the world. I mean, I think on GV, there were times in the past where, Barney was the best player. Jared maybe was the best player on BCW for a little, not BCW, on GV for a little bit. But like when Connor was active, I think he was always the best among them. On RWS, when Connor is active, I think he is pretty much always the best player there. When he's active on DK Summit, I hate to say it, I think he's better than Blake there. When he was active on Gorge, he was the best player there by quite a bit. Maybe not anymore because of Alperin, but yeah.
But he's just not that active.
That's the problem for him, yeah.
And I think there's so much missed potential with him. Like I could see him. What's his world record count at? 31. I could see that at 50. Yeah. I feel like he could have pushed tracks so much harder. And I think that's what's really holding him back on this list.
Remind us where you have him?
And I mean,
I have him
12?
at 17.
Oh, you had 17?
You had him way down there.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I forgot how bad it was. Yeah, no, he's way better than that. But I agree. At the same time, though, I don't want to like tell someone, hey, you could have had more world records if you worked harder. Like, we obviously don't really know what was going on.
Of course.
And obviously you can't really make claims about that, but it's like, no, could he have left meat on the bone? I mean, on the surface it seems, but again, I don't want to discredit. He has put in so much work to become the best at all these tracks whenever he's active. It's not like he just was like that. Like Barney had it over him for a long time. He had to work to get that one back, and eventually he did. So it would be cool if he can keep pushing some of these records for sure.
Yeah. Also to add to that, I think part of why he might not play a ton is that, Connor among top players seems like a pretty regular dude. So
yeah, for sure. So
yeah, a ton of respect for Connor.
For sure. I guess we'll go to my 8 just because when me and Matt we made like a preliminary top 10. We were kind of just talking about it in call for a few hours, mapping out who did we think we had.
I'm trying to think of who you could possibly have here.
Well, we both had Connor at 8. But there was just one guy through this process that I just got really, really high on, and I thought was pretty underrated. I have Liam at 8.
Oh, you have Liam all the way up at 8. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, and I mean, the biggest thing here is just, and this is a little bit more about opportunity, but Liam had the chance to peak his best in the world, and he was able to capitalize on that. There was this era that was up for grabs between Fox before Luke, and I really do believe that he was, I mean, Matt will talk about Luke on CTs. I guess I also wasn't there for that, But I think Liam was pretty clearly the best in the world for about a year in 2017, or like yeah, in 2017 and 2018. So, and I think like one of the things that like you might dock Liam for is just he doesn't have the greatest longevity. And it's just, but I think it's different, or I don't think it's necessarily that. He still has over 7K duration. It's just that like there aren't a lot of players who have world record profiles that start in 2013 and end in 2019. Um, I think this is just a unique sample of time. But he only set 24 records. He did this across 8 uniques, but some of the world records that he set were very strong, and he was able to hold 6 records concurrently as well. The other thing that was brought up last episode is I don't think we've really seen vehicle versatility like Liam. He Other players have held Spear, Flame Runner, Mach, and Magic Cruiser all at the same time, but nobody's done that on no glitch categories. And he even held them all at once in 2017. And I definitely nobody's ever held
That's
them all at
crazy.
once. And it's like and it wasn't like he was set one of the best Peach Beach records of all time, and that's like a spear track. And here he is dominating Mountain years later. And then obviously he is the one who's able to beat Sword's long-standing world record that stood for a while after he beat Ken. But and then he has all of his Flame Runner records. So I just think like Shy Guy was also pretty strong. Like he got KC too, which I don't know how strong of a record KC has been throughout the game's history. Definitely stronger than like when Totem was setting stuff, but I just think it's crazy. The tracks that Liam was able to set world records on were all so diverse, and then the record like quality was just high. And for me, that's what got him to 8th in the world alongside his peak, which I believe was best in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I totally see the argument. Like, for me, the cluster from 11 to 8 is really just razor thin margins between Connor, Justin, Totem, and Liam. Like, I can see them put it any order, and I wouldn't really argue. I think just what ended up holding Liam back a little bit for me was just the world record volume only having 24. It's just a little low.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's kind of a bulletproof case for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's like Liam was a player that I've never really been super high on until I really looked into it, and I just felt like his case spoke to me more than some of the other guys in this range. So, yeah, no, that was the guy who I feel like he is one of the more underrated players. I think Totem is underrated in a different way, but for similar reasons, kind of being the time period and the fact that they didn't have records into the 2020s like some of the other older players did. So I think they're a little bit forgotten in that regard when it comes to like people talking about the top 10, but especially with Liam, he didn't have like this PP champion legacy and other stuff like that. So I think for him, some of his stuff is really underrated.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the kind of player who came at a weird time, or at
Mhm.
least exited at a weird time, right? Starting in 2013, he played through, the end of the WFC era into the dead era, right? And set some decent world records at that point. Arguably the best player in the world, around that 2017 mark, and then, Luke takes over and Sosis and Logan, and all these great players, right? So, he had, but I thought it was very impressive, especially, I mean, obviously his Peach Beach time stands out, 1,700-day world record.
Yeah,
That's an insane record.
that's
pretty
one of the
crazy.
great ones for sure.
It's got to be a top
But,
10 record in the game.
Yeah, but then also like his highway record, his 143.316, set in 2016, stood for 965 days.
It's just
Which I thought was pretty incredible. He definitely like I think he's the kind of player you have to like look into a bit more to really understand, his case. When you first look at 24 world records on 8 uniques, it doesn't necessarily stand out like, oh, that's a decent amount of unique tracks. But then you start looking at the records. You start analyzing one by one within the context of when these were set. And he becomes such a more great player.
Mm-hmm.
That's a greater player, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think I'm a little lower on Liam's MH record. I mean, I just remember the competition on the track being incredibly close at the time. Like Totem's record that we mentioned earlier was only a frame
without
slower.
Liam, that stands for forever.
I think Silver was quite close at points. Sora was like very, very close to beating that record at one point. I just don't think it was a record that stood for 1,000 days because it like really stood out. It kind of just stood for 1,000 days because of circumstance and not getting the best of competition at the time.
Although Luke does beat this record, he lowers it by 60 or 70 milliseconds, and then Liam's there to beat him back. So like I do think had people beaten him at the time, Liam would have been able to reclaim and win that record battle. It's just like he wasn't battling Silver or Sora, he was battling Prime Luke, so he's just gonna lose that one.
Yeah.
So
I think people were just scared at the time of having to do any like truck dodging strats, and so they all just capped out at low threes.
It's possible, yeah. And that like MH feels like a really weird track in terms of record history for me, because obviously you have the crazy beginning until Cole flips it to Bowser Bike. And then it gets improved a lot really quickly because Bowser Bike is just a better strategy. But then it kind of sits at this point through range for a really long time. So I do think MH has a little bit of an odd record history, especially due to the cycles. I mean, that's really what's done it in every era, whether it was when it got stuck at a 0.0 or I'm sure prior to Bowser Bike, it had been pace locked multiple times. So
yeah.
Anyways, so we got year 8 with Connor. Riley, who do you have at 8? I actually think I know who you got.
Who do you think I have?
Is this where you have breaks in?
It is.
Yeah,
I have breaks in here.
Yeah, okay.
So let's talk about breaks. And where did you guys have him again?
16 and 14. So you're by far the highest on him here.
Yeah.
So let's hear the case.
Okay. Yeah. So first of all, 55 world records, 9 unique tracks. You think he started setting world records back in 2016? He started with the DKGP record and then the Coconut Mall record. It would be until the end of 2017 that he set his first no glitch record on Yoshi Falls. But you got to think of the longevity. I mean, he started in 2016. He has 3 world records right now. He's coming up on 10 years of having records. And it set some pretty decent records in that time. And I think a lot of his rank depends on how you value glitches versus no glitch, especially within the the realm of that. But like he set, I want to say 3 1,000-day records on glitches. He had his 1,200-day DKJP record before Invincible took over that track. That was sort of like that's how he got started in the world record scene, Breakson. And then got Peach Beach, the 100.395 that lasted forever. Peach Beach is a really weird glitch. Is a really weird world record track. I mean, you could say that the record's come out up on 4,000 days. With
okay.
Nim.
Shut up. But, Stop it. You're done. We are not talking about Nim right now.
I mean, he's next up. He's my number 7.
He's on pending. I cannot believe he's still on pending. That needs to get fixed.
That's crazy.
And then also his Coconut Mall glitch record stood for 1,000 days. I think his Coconut Mall is pretty incredible. If he hadn't lost it to Beanzard for a little bit due to Beanzard kind of hoarding some progress, fair play to him, of course. This reign would be pretty insane. Big Pork, I don't want to hear anything about you with hoarding.
Bro, there's a difference.
What are you owing for? No, there's not a difference.
There is a big difference between hoarding a run for a week while you record and hoarding a entirely new strat that saves like 8 seconds that you made like 10 times.
I mean, like, respect. He knew he had an opportunity and he knew what he had to do. He understood the assignment.
And it wasn't like that. what's it called? That strat wasn't already introduced.
Yeah,
Brakeson did it first.
The strat was introduced. It was just the fact it was on mock, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he just has such an easier way of doing it, man. If Brakeson knew about it on mock, like being good, I don't think that reign gets broken, and it's one of the greatest record reigns ever.
I 100%
annoyed
agree.
That got taken away from us by hoarding.
I mean,
but to be fair though, players have hoarded strategies like that, and the fact it only took him like, I mean, yes, 10 attempts without getting a record is a little tough, or 10 makes, but like it wasn't like
7, but yeah, whatever.
But either way, he only hoarded it for like a week or so. It wasn't like he'd been playing for a year, so I don't know.
It's also the kind of situation where, in any other circumstance, that hoarding, isn't ever going to be a problem. I think about like when Arvo got Shy Guy Beach.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
He hoarded that strat was hoarded, and he got record with it before the public knew.
But because he's Arvo, we love him, and also it was a new category. Like nobody's ever going to hate on him for it. Like ultimate respect.
Yeah.
So I do think, it's the context around breaks and having that reign that's going to get you mad at it. But I think if you look at it in a vacuum, what Beanzar did was perfectly normal, I guess. And again, he knew if that ever got out to breaks and he's barbecue chicken, and you're never going to want to pass on the opportunity to set a record like that.
Oh, of course.
He was barbecue chicken.
Would anyone else do that? Yeah, and exactly. I mean, that gets right back to my point with breaks, and the way he dominated that track before the
a full day duration,
before the the new strat came out, and then got record with that, and then Beanzard comes and beats it after a year, with a new vehicle strat, and then breaks and takes it back the next day and breaks the record 4 times, and now that's sitting at 491 days as we're recording this video. And that could be another 1,000-day world record.
Mm-hmm. Easily.
His dominance on that track is insane. And I think it's up there for one of the greatest, dominances on a track in the game's history. And that's just one of his records. Or like that's one of his times. You look at what he did no shortcut, on the no shortcut category. He doesn't have record there anymore, but he's right there, and I think if he came back he would get it. It's not like Logan beat it by much. His Yoshi Falls, I mean, I think Yoshi Falls is very weak, but I think that's sort of the nature of that track, right? But coming back and beating David's run there, he's kind of held that record like every once in a while throughout his history. He got a 58.9, 58.8, 58.7, now 58.6. He's gotten like one record in each of the like with 0.1 ranges.
You should interval,
yeah, but I think what he's done is really impressive. But again, I don't blame you guys for having him lower. I think it depends on how you value some of his glitch records, and I think his record count is not as impressive as some others, who are around that range, right?
Yeah, I think there's a really wide variety of outcomes for breaks in a list like this, just depending on how you view certain things and how you view certain players around him. So, like unlike Connor at 17 and Caleb outside of the top 20, I totally see the argument for this, even if I might have gone a different direction. Like, I mean, he's about to be at 10K duration, so even if the 75% of it's shortcut, that's still a lot. I think, is that like that's closing in on top 5? I think no, there's at least 5 guys.
There's a few guys above 10K.
Yeah.
But... He's number 6.
He's 6. Okay.
He's about 4th. He's about 2,000 from Cole.
Okay.
Or not 2,000. Like
he's less than 1,000. Cole's under 11K, right?
I'm having trouble with my numbers.
Okay. Welcome to my world.
500. He's like 400 or 500.
Yeah, he'll be past Cole in less than a year.
So in which case, in less than a year.
You did say he's been he's had 3 records concurrently. I will say one of them is RDH glitch, and that run or that track is just not. It might be one of the least serious categories in the game that involves any sort of no glitch inside drift driving. it,
Yeah.
it is,
Dude,
it's quite a silly track.
I mean, I'll agree until Troy got record. Once Troy got record and it became a 3-for-3, then it's been extremely optimized and hard to beat since then.
Yeah,
Bro,
Troy's run was like the pinnacle of like I don't even have the word for it right now. But yeah,
dude.
All strats, no driving.
I was gonna say like just the way he played the run was beautiful. He did nothing wrong.
Yeah, dude. I think
The way he
Briggs,
executed,
even like,
that's what I was trying to say. Oh my god.
He executed.
Yeah, the way he
That run
executed
deserves.
that run.
I'm in favor of execution of that run.
Yes, okay, I'm sorry, Matt. I just
Dude.
couldn't not come up with the word for 30 seconds. I didn't mean to cut you off.
RDH glitch is such a terrible category. Like Breakson, he has like a 130.4, right? That run in a vacuum might be worse than his 45 on DKJP from 10 years ago.
It's possible.
That's crazy.
It's
Yeah.
yeah.
I hear your argument.
I think with Breakson, you know, you can't throw out all of the glitch and shortcut stuff. You know, some of it was weak, but I do have a lot of respect for the last few records he set on Parkway. You know, there were some pretty good 3-for-3s. And especially his Coconut Mall stuff on the glitch category over the years is truly, truly incredible. His no glitch work on Coconut Mall is really good. But yeah, I think he just has a lot of records that just aren't that good. And so I think his total record tally of 55 is quite a bit overinflated. I think the other thing that holds him down for me is like, I just don't see him at the level of talent and peak of a lot of the guys above him. Like, he, at best, was maybe the 6th best player in the world at one point. I think he's certainly hit top 8 points, but never cracked the top 5, I'm pretty sure. And it's just a hard position to be in when I think there's a pretty big talent gap there.
Yeah, I think he had a really good stretch from 2022 to 2023. I think that definitely was his peak. Maybe a little bit in 2021 too. But I mean, he has a little bit of Justin in him. He's the first to do BC3 shrimless. Unfortunately, did not result in super optimized records, but he still had that for a bit. I know you don't. You're not super high on those runs at all, but
yeah.
But yeah, no. Certainly a divisive player, but certainly one of the guys who's going to be in everybody's top 20s.
Yeah, there's definitely an argument for him up at 8 where hydration has him.
Mm-hmm. And we have all of our 8s with that one, right?
Yes.
So
now we get to real meat and potatoes.
Consensus top 7. Yeah, and I really do believe that this is a consensus top 7. I don't really think any of the guys outside of here have arguments, and I don't believe any of these guys really have arguments to be outside of the top 7 either. And if I had to guess, there's going to be a tier at 6 and 7. There's going to be a guy at 5, and then you're going to have 2 tiers at 3 and 4. But let's see if I'm right. Who do we?
The guy missing from the pod
7?
might have had one of these guys out of this.
Okay, Nate's list is fucked. We are. No, we're not talking about that right now. Maybe he'll DM me his list and we can clown him after. I think he has, so we can clown him after the list if we have time.
I bet.
But which one of you guys wants to reveal your number 7 right now?
Matt, go ahead.
All right, so taking it away at number 7, I have Mr. Sword of Seals himself. Where do y'all have him?
Interesting.
Where do you have him, Riley? You go first.
I have Sword at 5.
Okay.
Oh, so I am a little bit wrong. I have Sword at 6, and this is another change from our original list that I had. And honestly, I struggled with this one. Dude, putting the Nasty Man above my guy Yasha, it really hurt, but I just...
Well, you're just telling that Yasha's number 7.
Who's the Nasty Man?
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. What?
I understand Sword's, legacy. Great player. I just haven't heard from him in a while.
Yeah,
we're doing this.
Where did he
go? It really
go?
is a question. What happened?
I think he's still...
He was streaming all day, 70 hours a week or something crazy, and then he just stopped.
He's still working on how to get over the islands without hopping, man. I swear, in 2032, we're gonna have a 119 from him that doesn't hop at all.
Maybe Bint has some
when he just
intel on
wheelies
him.
over everything.
Somewhere between 5 and 92 years, he'll get it done.
Years. And by
But
the way,
yeah.
that's the guy you had off your top 20, so I don't want to hear any more of that
Wow.
until you repent for your sins. But
And for my
anyways,
sins. Okay,
So-
yeah, we start talking about Guy and suddenly we're using biblical references.
So I think
that was even intentional.
I think at this point in the pod, we're going to get to talking about guys in a bit of a different way because you kind of have clusters of guys. And the cluster that
for
we
sure.
have here is the guys from rank 5 to rank 7. So
Mhm.
I ended up with Sword at the bottom of the list here of these guys. He has 63 total world records, which is just a massive number. I mean, that's what? It's fourth all time. 57 on no glitch, 6 on glitch. 6,500 day total duration. And this guy does have some records that really stood out. His BC3 216 652 didn't last very long, but man, that was a good time. He was kind of the Delfino king for a very long time, set a ton of records there, took the time down quite a bit. His Shy Guy Beach 121 964 lasted for over 1,000 days. That was a really, really good record for the time it was set. And one that's quite underrated, I think, is his Mario Circuit 121 764, which lasted for, about 850 days, was a rampless time, and is famous for being equaled by King Alex when he implemented the King Alex ramp. But what really holds Sword back is he doesn't really have a great timesheet. He's really, really great at every track he plays. He also had records on RSL and variety of other tracks, quite high level on a bunch of stuff. 9 unique track records, really incredible longevity. He had records from 2008 all the way up until 2020 when he mysteriously vanished, as Hydration mentioned. And then I think his peak is also quite underrated these days. This guy got up to 5 concurrent records back in 2013, was certainly a top 3 to 5 player in the game, and there might have been an argument that he was the best player in the world back then. So, yeah, that's what I've got to say about Sword.
And I think one of the other biggest knocks, like, for example, like with Liam at 8, I don't think people are going to think about him as a 7K duration guy. Sword actually has, oh wait, no, I was on the wrong tab. That's somebody else who has less duration. No, Sword is over 8. Oh no, I wrote it backwards. Sword literally has under 7K duration.
Yeah.
It's like Liam has more duration than him, which I think is really surprising. But even so, he really did set some standout times. And I think what got him up to 6 for me is he does lack the well-roundedness. He does lack the timesheet. But since his peak times aged better, and since he was able to have a higher peak as best in the world, that's what really did it and got him up to 6 for me. And it was like, I really didn't want to do that when I was making this list, but I just kind of saw like what we were working with Sword, and then kind of like how I really believe some of the times that he set towards the end have aged pretty well for times coming from 2019 and 2020. They're still
sure.
quite strong for today. And I think that's really I think that matters to me more than having like a more well-rounded timesheet. And also 63 world records. I mean, he has some like literally like prehistoric CM records from 2008. He has some miscellaneous glitch records that all lasted like 2 days or less or something. But I also think the diversity. He has 9 unique tracks, 11 categories, and I think 8 of them would end up being no glitch tracks. And then, like you mentioned, just some standout times like MC No Shortcut, I think, being the headline that often is forgotten because of a funny little ramp that nobody really likes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he had periods as best in the world in 2012 and 2013. And again, despite the duration, he had interesting longevity because he famously set world record in every year except 2016 to 2020 when apparently he mysteriously vanished. So yeah. And
Yeah.
or you got it.
Yeah. In my like, I'm higher on Sword than you guys are. I think, I think first of all his world record count, 63 world records. You look at the 9 unique tracks, and that's not necessarily like, a crazy. I mean, it's a good number, but um, it's not an insane number, right? It's not mind blowing. But when you look at what he did on every one of those tracks, I think every single track on that list of 9, except for Maple Treeway, he really had an impact on. You look at Coconut Mall early in the game's history, starting in 2008. He kind of battled with Yasha there, um, and then you go on to Daisy Circuit, which is probably his least impactful, getting it from like a 130.4 down to like a 129. Mario Circuit, he's kind of one of the leaders in terms of no ramp. RDS, I think, kind of speaks for itself. The impact he had there, helping to take the world record down by over a second. And then Shy Guy Beach, he set numerous records there. Um, BC3 No Shortcut, we already talked about it a little bit. Picking it up in 2012, getting a 217.9, and then getting his last record at 216.6. Goldmine, back in like 2013, he took down a decent bit, down in the 151 range. And then also his Sherbertland. I think Sherbertland can't be understated. The impact he had there, 837-day no circuit record, and then he went and got the glitch category too. I just think every single track he had an impact on. It wasn't like he came in, set one world record, and then left. His timesheet isn't great, but that's not who Sword is. There's players you can judge on their timesheet because that's who, that's something that they identified with. You think of, a Justin or something like that. You really can't do that with Sword just because he didn't play for it. Similarly, like how you wouldn't for like, Cole, for example. Maybe back in the early days, but definitely not now.
No, I disagree.
Overall,
I was just gonna say, I think we should judge him by his favorite track only, Toad's Factory, and let that speak for him as a player. We can throw RWS in there too. I know you really like that one.
Yeah.
But sorry.
But yeah, no, you're good. But yeah, I just think he's a very solid player, great longevity. Didn't have one period where he was super dominant, although there definitely was cases at times where he was the best player in the world. But I just think the amount of time he was around and just plucking away at records is pretty insane.
Yeah,
I have one other tangent.
Longevity goats.
He is, yeah. Even though the duration doesn't tell you, he really has been. So I mean, like he didn't like go into world record battles with people often, but I mean, actually, I think it's a little underrated that he kind of did. But like, there was always someone there that was nipping on his heels, and that's why, like, RSL is really the only record that lasted a really long time, except for the MC. But as a little like tangent, have you guys ever watched his Daisy Circuit records? Or just like that era of Daisy Circuit?
I have not, no.
They're disgusting.
I assume it was very different, yeah.
Nobo's record with Mach Bike added like 6 MTs to the track. I guess 5. Sword was literally...
Oh yeah, it was Flame Runner back then,
Sword was
wasn't it?
literally rehopping everywhere. So the lap transition was a rehop. And the MT after the cut exit was also a rehop. It was disgusting.
That's nasty work.
It was actually disgusting.
I think the only one from back then I watched was Dragon's last record.
Yes, but that was after we realized that getting mini turbos on turns was faster.
We might have discovered soft drifting a little bit.
Dude,
I didn't realize they used stair dives and went between cones back then.
Wait, I did Swords one use...
I'm watching it right now.
I actually
definitely used dives.
Stair dive lap 1, it went in between a cone.
Oh my god, I forgot it used dives though. That's the thing I forgot. I will never forget the fact that we weren't going for MTs. Like, I'm actually scarred by some of those runs.
They also used MT. Oh my god, there's a second dive. Sorry, I'm watching it right now.
2 dives
in the background. Dude, I gotta see lap 3 now.
Actually, that sounds familiar. He definitely doesn't get a dive lap 3, but like, oh my gosh. Dude, every modern Daisy Circuit player is
over the gap. He doesn't delay drift the last turn. He just kind of like 08 drifts it. This is such an interesting strategy.
So yeah, I don't know.
Okay, good. He didn't die lap 3. I was gonna lose my mind.
Dude, if he got 3
But
dives and didn't 129, or I guess you're probably watching the last one, but if he gets 2 dives
yeah,
in a
yeah.
129.9, I actually think you might just be disqualified from the top 10, unfortunately.
There was also a he also didn't do an MT on the like post dive like
Yeah, like the
rehop.
figure
That's what I
eight.
mean.
He
Yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
just rehopped. Yeah, the figure
That's where
eight.
you get the
You just didn't.
5.
You just don't do an MT there.
Hmm.
That's so interesting.
Matt,
But yeah,
or
regardless.
I was just gonna ask. I know you set like a 129.6 with Bowser Bike like really
Yeah,
early on, at least relative to when I was playing. That was like your holy grail fluke bork run. Did that run
that
get
was crazy.
dives?
Nah, that was diveless.
Yeah. See, like this is an ethical Bowser Bike Daisy Circuit run, and your sword is getting 2 dives.
I
This
mean, to be fair, is there such thing as unethical back in 2009?
Bro, they were
this
called
is
luck
unethical.
wheelies.
When did
They were called luck
that?
wheelies
That's a
back
good
then.
question. When was the first unethical world record?
The first
It's a great
unethical world
question,
record.
actually.
This would be a great pod question. We're gonna
Yeah,
return to this.
we will.
I'm
We're
act-
gonna we'll cook with that one for a bit.
You know what? I'm actually adding that to our sheet right now so we don't forget.
Unethical
What
world record.
was the first unethical world record? That's gonna be a banger.
That'll be fun to research.
That would be hilarious.
All
So,
right, going back to the current podcast
Yeah.
episode. Yeah, I mean, I think I completely understand where you guys are coming from, having Sword a little bit lower than sort of the other two in this group that we'll get to.
okay.
But I just think his mix of longevity and the quality in his variety can really sets him apart.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm dying. Who do you have at your 6, Riley? I mean, I already said who I have at my 7. We're gonna talk about
You
these
don't know
3
who I have
guys.
my 7 yet.
Oh wait, sorry, that's what I meant to ask. Yeah, yeah. Who do you have
Yeah.
at your lowest spot out of these 3 guys?
At 7, I have Sosis.
That's what I was
Okay.
thinking. Okay.
Should we all just give
Yeah.
our
We-
5, 6, 7?
Yeah, we all
Yeah,
have
we
Sosa at
should.
5, so we can just Riley, you go first.
Okay. So I have Sosis at 7, Yasha at 6, and Sword at 5.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've got Sword at 7, Yasha at 6, and Sosis at 5.
And I have Yasha at 7, Sword at 6, and Sosis at 5.
Interesting.
So I was
So
just wrong
you guys
about.
both have Yasha below Sosis.
Well, we both just have Sosis at 5.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like in my mind,
but by
I
proxy.
do think Sosis has a little bit of separation from these two, and I really didn't. I mean, that's kind of how I laid it out before. I honestly wondered if Sosis would. He's just like Yasha and Sword are contemporaries, so I feel like they're a little bit easier to compare. I don't know if that kind of biased me to having Sosis higher just because he played in a different era and it made it a little bit more difficult to go head to head. But in terms of the head to head, I really just thought Sword edged Yasha there. Anyways, I'll make the case for Yasha, even though I have him the lowest. He's always been one of my favorite players. And then Matt can talk about Sosis. But I think with Yasha, I mean, his like longevity and persistence is kind of unmatched. At one point, like around the time he lost Parkway, or no, it was RMR was his last record. When he lost that, he was almost up to 98% duration in the game's history, which is absolutely wild. He had over 8K duration. A negligible amount was due to spiral skip. He set 48 world records, and then 4 of them I believe were spiral skip. He was on 6 unique tracks, 7 unique categories, but the 7th was just a Parkway no glitch clone. He peaked at 4 world records currently, and he had probably brief periods as best in the world.
Yeah.
At like small points during 2009, 2010, 2012, and 2013. And I think especially like in 2009, like contending with Brendan for a little bit, and in 2010 was just an era where for most of the year, nobody had more than two records, and then if they did, they were just at three, and then a couple days later, you get pegged down to two. So that was a very competitive era that he was always one of the best during. Even now, he still has 66% duration, and for me, again, like I said, I think one of the reasons that I have him lower than Sword is just because I don't think he peaked as high relative to the rest of the community in those short spurts as best in the world. And then also his like RMR and DKJP, and then also especially like a CM, they don't hold up as well as some of Sword's best times that he ended up setting. Uh, like Matt said, he does have a much better timesheet. He's much more well rounded. And even stuff like I don't really put much stock into, unfortunately, any of the RBC records. He has that one, but really what that is an example of is him just having like what at the time was second worldwide. And he was able to get to that level on other tracks too throughout his dominance. And then the other thing, I think he just it's not like he's getting punished for this, but no records in 2015 and 2016. He kind of just lost that opportunity to beef up some of his numbers or expand track diversity while he was holding on to a Parkway record for almost 4 years. So I don't know. Always one of the best players around when he was active. And yeah, it's just like I think that he's just dealing with two tanks above him. But I think you can't go any lower than seventh all time for Yasha.
Yeah, I think I'm just a little higher on some of Yasha's stuff than you are, or maybe I'm a little lower on some of Sword's stuff. I think his
Mm-hmm.
peaks were just as good, if not even better than Sword's peak. I think Yasha was a much more talented player overall. I think his records were
Probably, yeah.
quite good. Like this guy was a demon on Coconut Mall. Of course, like he's probably the Parkway GOAT. His RPG time on Manual Sphere, 159.5, that lasted almost 2 years. His
That's one of the
RMR
most
record was
record or underrated
really
records in the game.
incredible.
I
Like
think a
he's
lot of people forget
absolutely,
about Gardens.
yeah, yeah. I mean, on RMR, he absolutely snatched Zane's chain and took it down to a mid three, which was another really, really good record. Whenever this guy was active, like you said, he was just one of the best players in the world. I think his record quality was really high. Doesn't quite have the same volume as Sword, but I think his quality is so much better. I think, his overall timesheet is just so much better. I think his peaks are a little bit better. That's just what has me over Sword for Yasha.
Mm-hmm. Riley, do you have any
Yeah, I mean,
thoughts?
yeah, I mean, I completely understand what you're saying. Um, like, I think Yasha has some similarities to Sword in terms of, um, their like, TT history. With especially starting with like their sort of battle on Coconut Mall, in the early days. Um, but I think Sword's history is just a little bit more impressive. I think overall per record, Yasha's probably a little bit higher in terms of quality per record, especially for some of his mid to later records. Once he was done with Coconut Mall, or at least his first sort of dominance of Coconut Mall in 2008 2009. um but I just think Sword did it on more tracks. He did it for a longer span of time in terms of he was setting records in more years. Yasha kind of left the game between 2014 and 2017, like for 20 like most of pretty much all of 2014, 2015, and then 2016 he was gone. And he also ended a year before Sword did, right? So I
Yeah.
think that's 4 years less of the 12-year history. But I still think it's super impressive what he did, and that's why he's for me above Sosis, which we'll get into. But yeah, I mean, I think he's an incredible player, and I think he's the kind of player that's not talked about enough today,
For sure.
for the contributions he's really put into into the TT scene.
Yeah, no, he was definitely way more dominant on the tracks that he was good at over Sword. Like Sword never even
Mhm.
had one track that could stack up to Yasha on CM, Parkway, or RMR. And honestly, like he just has more iconic records. I think a lot of it's because his records were able to last a lot longer. Um, but like, yeah, like obviously Luke has far surpassed his level on Parkway and even was able to do so with the old Shroom. But
Yeah.
nobody was better at the Cup than he was on that track. Like it was kind of his superpower relative to the rest of the community. I think it's really impressive how far players got CM back then. Like that's just not one of the tracks that I would have expected to have ended up so optimized in like 2011. I'm really high on what him and Chaos were able to do there, and he ends up being the one who gets the majority of the credit because he does have the last record that did last over 1,000 days. And then yeah, I mean Zane's legacy on RMR was crazy, and Yasha just brushed him aside like he was nothing, and he made his own legacy there. And then again, the last record that you obviously have all brought up all of these already, but is the Gardens record, which was a massive cut at the time. I think he skipped point 0.6. Yeah, he completely skipped point 0.6. Like Brett had auto, and he had it with auto at a point 0.8, and within a month and a half, the record was like almost point 0.3 faster, which is just crazy. And that record rightfully stood for almost 2 years. So yeah, no, again, he's always been one of my favorite players. I wish he was a little bit more recognized. I think part of it is just because there was minimal to no contact with the community. So like old players don't have much personal impression from him as compared to other guys. Um, but yeah, I think his resume is very impenetrable, other than the fact that he really, when it came to, even though he had a good timesheet, he really stuck to his 3 tracks that he really had a legacy on, um, and didn't set too much outside of those. And that ultimately is one of the reasons why I have his peak is a little bit lower, because also like his dominance of like being absolutely dominant on CM, Parkway, and RMR. I don't think they really overlapped with each other. I think it was like one, then the other, then the other. Um, but yeah, there's a little overlap, but for sure. So,
Yeah.
Matt, I want you to lay out the case for Sosis at 5, and then Riley, I want you to tell us why you have him at all the way down at 7 below some of these '08 Kings.
So the case for Sosis is quite a simple one, in my opinion, and it's that this guy has 43 world records, and despite having, 43 world records, which is an incredible total, he has the highest world record quality in the game's history. Literally all of them are standout level records. Just to name a few, Shy Guy Beach, 121.4. His RSL 2037 was the second longest lasting record in the game for a while. His RDH 134.3, his MMM 115.4, RMR 141.1, GV 2.6. That's just crazy. MMM 0.2, it's crazy. His 0.5 on RSL was really good. And I mean, even now, it got taken by Casey with new strats. He's about to beat it back and probably going to take it down to a 0.3, a 0.2. Who knows how far? He's just absolutely incredible at the tracks that he is good at. I think he's the GOAT when it comes to defending world records. The only one he ever lost was Shy Guy, and that was to Casey, Not exactly easy competition there. But he's defended all of the
Raceway
other.
as well.
Oh yeah, he lost Raceway as well, but
Raceway wasn't really a
hasn't
battle though.
he hasn't
He kind of just
defended
let
it.
that one go.
Yeah, he just let that one go. And
But he
I mean,
was on the flip side. He was the only one who beat Casey back. I guess him and Luke were the only two people who beat Casey in a record battle as well. So it was like he got one back over Casey as well.
Yeah, and he doesn't currently have RSL. He is getting that back. He has failed multiple records to the last turn in the past few days. He's like a top 4 pure driver of all time, probably top 3, maybe top 1. Um, one of the greatest track specialists ever on Moo and RSL, and he has a good time sheet. He has 87 MKL points. I think he peaked at like 4 or 5 concurrent records. I think he got up to
It was 5.
probably he got up to 5. Okay, I
Actually, I
mean
think he had 6 world records concurrently at one point.
he got up to 6. Wow.
I think he did.
And his peak is also really, really good. He was never the best player in the world, but the guys he's competing with for best player in the world are just the monsters of monsters. And even amongst this super tough era to be one of the best players in the world, he's peaked as high as third, I think, which is just super, super impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has nearly 13,000 day total duration. He's just such an incredible player, man.
For sure. And like I mean, you mentioned his timesheet. I do think it's a little bit underrated. I'm trying to pull it up right now, but MKL doesn't like to work. But no, and I think that's just what it is. The level of like pure driver that he is and the amount of like I mean, he only has 43 world records and he's racked up almost 13K duration. And again, he is one of the goats at, if not the goat, at just defending his own tracks. Like a couple people got MMM briefly. You knew Casey was never holding that. Logan was never holding that. It was always
Yeah.
Sosas's track. You never felt like for a second that he was going to be ultimately outdone there. Um, so yeah, I just think like I had a hard time putting either of Sword or Yasha above him just because of how high of a level he's like reached within the modern game. Um, so yeah, for me, that's why I kind of just considered Sosas closer to being on his own island than in contention with
Yeah,
either of the previous
that's where
two.
I've got him as well. I think he's
But
apart from the guys below him, but also probably
mhm.
apart from the guys above him.
Yeah, no, I don't really think he's close to the two that are going to be right above him. I think they're kind of in their own category. But that being said, I would hear the argument out for him being seventh. I think the one illogical opinion is slotting him between Sword and Yasha. I don't think that makes any sense. Nobody here did that, but just hypothetically. So yeah, let's hear why you have Sosas down at 7, Riley.
I mean, I could see you putting it in between, just because
I
of
could as well.
depending on how much you value
Really?
the total records.
I
Um, because Sword does have a decent gap over Sosis in terms of total records. But
oh
I think I'll lay out
Well, yeah,
the
you
case
guys are
against
thinking
it.
about it in the opposite
yeah,
direction.
I was thinking I could see him between just because like I think there actually is a decent gap between Sword and Yasha. I just think Yasha's decently ahead of Sword.
Yeah, so okay,
That's fair. Yeah,
maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just me.
we're just like wherever.
Yeah, so no, and it's good. It's good that we're having these convos and shit.
Exactly.
So yeah, let's
For
hear it.
me, for me, I can completely agree with a lot of things Matt said. Um, his record quality, his ability to just drive, is almost unmatched. Um, but I think in a lot of, I think there's a couple criticisms against him. I think his tracks are si- different but similar archetypes. In terms of like they're all very heavy driving. Might have like one little wrinkle in it. Think of the MMM low or, Sherbert Land being on Magic Cruiser. Like, they all have like one wrinkle in them, but most of them are 95% driving, right? Along with that, I don't know if he's ever actually had to deal with a strat change.
Well, he
Ghost Valley
just
2,
did.
he hasn't set the record yet. So I'm not including anything he hasn't set. Um,
Yeah, we aren't supposed to be
but
projecting. He's right.
yeah,
Yeah, but
so GV2 he just didn't use the strat, and it didn't save that much anyway. I don't think. Um, But other than that, I mean, I don't know if he's ever had to deal with a strat change. So I think in some ways that can kind of help his legacy a little bit because, especially in the earlier days, some of these records were getting taken down because a new strat was implemented. An example I think of is, Vincent on Goldmine, right? Um, new strats got introduced and that got taken down. We haven't seen that happen on Amumu Meadows or a Shagai Beach or something like that. At least to that, extent, right? Except for some micro changes. So I think, he has a very similar archetype in terms of the records he's gotten. Um he he hasn't had been forced to adapt. Um which I think, not to say it pumps up his numbers a bit, but I think it does. He's the kind of player who grinds a track and then leaves it and won't touch it again until someone, challenges or beats him, right? And that's why you see, a lot of, 1,000 day records and stuff on his page. He'll, grind a track down harder than, a lot of players ever have. And I have full credit to him for being able to do that, for being able to set himself apart. Then over the next 2 or 3 years, players catch up and then, he beats it, they beat it and get to his level, and then he'll take it down again. And that's not a knock against him or anything like that, because it's not a knock at all. It's impressive that he's able to get so far ahead of people. Um, but I just think despite the 6 unique tracks, I think there's a lack of variety.
Yeah, that is, I'd say, the biggest knock against Sosis. Because the way that he plays, he gets so incredibly good at the tracks he does play, but it takes him quite a while to pick up on new stuff. Like you said,
Mhm.
he's never actually adapted to strat changes. Like on RMR, he just left it after the start slip, but I mean, that's a pretty small one to adapt to anyway. On GB2, he just owned Barney even without the new strat. On RSL, he's opting to not even use them, and I know we can't count it, but he's about to own Casey without the new strats too.
Is he using the old strat?
Yeah.
He's
Yes.
using Magic Cruiser everything, or sorry, Toadette and
Toadette.
everything.
Like Toadette?
Yeah.
Jesus
Like,
Christ.
dude, it's hilarious. It's like you tell him adapt or die, and he's like, nah, I'm just gonna play this how I always have, and just be better. But it is kind of crazy, and obviously there have been like minor optimizations on all these tracks that he's had to learn, or in a lot of cases probably that he's been the one to implement. It is just so funny that that lap 3 he set on his GV2 record. That's BKS, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah, it's insane that he set a BKS without a strat that saves like 40 milliseconds, and also without the ending ramp, which saves significantly less. But
Even the ending ramp saves like 30, I think.
really, I thought it was closer to 10. Well, it's 30 if you do it perfectly, but the actual time save you get from the average one's probably a lot less.
Yeah, I don't
I
know
mean,
enough about it.
if not, I mean, if both of those strats like save up to 70 or something, I mean, like
Oh.
you got to start pushing your 52.5 propaganda more.
Oh, I
No.
am going to push my 52.5. It's not propaganda. It's going to happen.
You said it a little too early. Like,
You're never,
I mean, you would have been
never
right,
wrong,
but
just early.
nobody was ready to consider a 52.5 when Blaze had it, or maybe it was Sosis's 7.75. But that's some funny lore that maybe the people will get to learn about later. 52.5.
I just think what puts him over Yasha and Sword for me is his duration so much better. His quality is so much higher. That's just all it took for me.
Mm-hmm. Like
I think also duration's easier now.
Well, I was gonna say I've said this.
I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I've said this before in terms of like equating duration for like the early guys to the later guys. It's like once you work this hard and you climb your way up to the summit, it's just inherently so much harder for new people or even more established people to come in and be able to knock you off. It's not competitive in a way like sports are, where your bodies break down and whereas other people are like physically peaking behind you. So, but even that being said, it's like Yasha and Sword, they set world records a period spanning 12 years. I guess Yasha would have been 11, but Sosis or no, they're both 12. But Sosis is at 8 at this point. He sets RSL to be 9 because it has been a while since he set his last record. But I mean, he started in 2017. So, I mean, again, I don't think it's his raw longevity is a lot closer than like how I would adjust it in my mind to players like Sword and Yasha. But I do think his longevity is not a weakness at this point like it might be for some other players.
Yeah, I don't think I'm as low on duration of modern records as you guys are. I mean, we saw Sword playing into, 2019 and 2020, and he was able to get a few records, but they had no duration because he was just not at the level. He wasn't able to stay up at the level of the modern players and properly compete anymore. He just wasn't
Yeah,
good
yeah.
enough. And I think if
Well, no,
Yasha
and
played, he could be up there because I see him as that level of talent. But even him, I think, like on DKJP, would be losing out on a lot of tracks,
mhm,
wouldn't be able to, he'd be able to compete, but he wouldn't be dominant like Sosis is.
for sure. And the other thing with Sosis is you got to imagine like his duration is what happens if Sosis never plays the game again. His records, like there could be a record that lasts until the end of this decade, if not into 2030, because I mean, probably not that
I don't
long, but
know.
low key maybe. The game's not super active right now at
I
this
don't think
level
he's
because
far
it's
enough
just so
ahead
hard to
on
be here.
anything at the moment, though.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think his farthest ahead in terms of, pure driving is GV2, but the strat,
Yeah,
Yeah, someone
brings
can do
that
the
so much
strat.
more
he's
within
got a problem with
within reach.
strats are gonna own him when people
But
catch up a little bit to his level.
the only reason I say that though is because so many of his records have lasted over 3 years. I just have a hard time believing there isn't going to be one of his current records that won't be here in another 3 years or something. Um,
I think the
although I
only
guess
I
one,
think all of them. I think all of his current
they're
records
all old
will
though.
be
So if he
beaten,
were to
but
set a record
I think they'll all
today,
be beaten before 2030.
yeah, no,
yeah, I
I
think
totally agree
so.
with that. But I think, like again, I think these records have a long way to go still in some cases, especially if there's no new strategies. And then I think that's like you got to think about that. Like you're not projecting, but it's also like you got to give him credit for being or not so far ahead. He's been farther ahead in the past, but he still is far ahead on all three of the tracks he's record on still, and
Yeah,
realistically on RSL as well, if
yeah.
you account for the
Mhm.
fact that his strats lose time. So, is there anything more any of you guys want to say about this 5 to 7 range?
I think I've said
Not
my
really.
piece. Yeah.
Okay, so at 3 and 4, it's going to be Cole and it's going to be Fox. Um, which one of you wants to reveal who you got where first?
I can reveal.
Okay.
So I have Cole in my number 3 and Fox in my number 4.
I also have
I
What do you
do.
Cole at
guys have?
three
And then we'll get
and
into the
Fox at
reasons.
4, but it is on a knife's edge. I've been debating this for the past
Yeah,
week, man.
Yeah,
same.
I kept this the same. This is kind of maybe this was one of the biggest things that we realized when me and Matt were doing this a month ago. We got to the 3 spot and we're like, wait, Cole might be better than Fox. And I mean, before we got on this pod, Matt was talking about how this was going to be a game time decision for him. For me, I'm a little bit more confident in Cole over Fox, but this is certainly the tier of its own. Does anyone want to talk about? You want to talk about Cole first because we have him above, or do we want to lay out Fox's case first?
I think we start with Fox's case, and I can lead the way
All right,
there.
go ahead.
Okay.
Um, so Fox 61 world records on 19 unique tracks.
Good
I would
lord.
up until taking out Yaveron, and taking and before Luke and Logan, Fox was the most dominant player in this game's history. He started setting world records back in 2013, and from that sort of like, I would say 20. I'll say maybe like starting in 2014 until maybe early 2017, he was the best player in the world, and in a dominant fashion.
Yeah.
He was setting records, you know, similarly to how Luke or Logan set records today. I mean, he just picked them up. Um, he was just so consistent on every track. He was number one players page. For at that time was an unbelievably long time. Um, he was yeah for 1,400 days, which has only been beaten by Logan's current reign. You think about like if you were to add together
Oh
like
yeah.
totems and Enmeads, it still wouldn't equal what Fox did in terms of um, duration as players page champ. He set numerous like really high, level records. Um, his RMC run lasted 1,400 days, well, I'm sure Matt can talk here about how it should not have lasted nearly as long as it did. It did, right? I think also back to his 150 on Goldmine, the first one to get 150. How he pushed Toad's Factory, um, his 128 on Daisy Circuit. Um, like I could go on and on, just going through the individual tracks, talking about all the records he set. Um, and then randomly, I mean, if you're an online player, you understand this. It's not random. But he came back and got BC Wii for a little bit. It didn't last long, but in 2023 he came back 5 years after he had set his last record, um, and got this, which I think is super impressive to be able to do. But I mean, I think he had an incredible legacy in terms of what he was able to do in such a short amount of time. His world record span, not including his last record, is only is under 5 years, right? And his last record was like 9 months after his previous one, so take that into consideration. But he really had an eight, like what did I say? Like a 4 or 5 year span for 95% of his records. Um, but truly just an incredible short term burst of pure dominance over this game that we had pretty much never seen before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's well, first of all, I don't even think you're pretty much a fan of his RMC record, I think, right?
Um.
Like
Yeah, I'll
like I
go
know you
into.
don't think it holds up super well today, obviously, but I think it was probably the strongest record he set by quite a bit, right?
I agree. It was, I think, the best record he set by quite a bit. I want to go into a little
Hmm.
spiel about RMC of like the 2010s era. I think nobody at the time really in the 2010s had it all on RMC. I think Fox was the closest. What Fox was lacking on the track was driving ability. That was the main thing holding him back in comparison to like even Demon outdrove him quite significantly
Yeah.
at the time. But what Fox had over the rest of the competition was he was just the best at the important strats, especially the shroom and the double at the end. I think he was better at than Demon was, and even when Luke came around, Luke struggled quite a bit with the double, I think, which is why it took him a decent bit to chunk the record down to his low six and eventually his 0.5 because, Luke really revolutionized the driving even to a level higher than Demon did. He's a god at chains, but Fox was probably the most complete player on the track for the 2010s period. And so while he wasn't like full in the sense of his driving was a little weak, it is still a really respectable record because he was masterful at all the strats on the track.
Hmm.
But yeah, um, going into a little bit of a spiel about Fox in general. Like you said, 61 records, 1,200-day duration, just incredible stats. I think I'm lower on his world record quality in general than you are hydration. I don't think he had a lot of super impressive records. I think some of them, especially some of the earlier ones, were particularly like kind of unimpressive, especially his Grumble Volcano ones at the start. Um, and he had some decent ones in there. He's a very, very good TF player. And we mentioned RMC already, but compared to the other guys up this high on the list, just pretty low record quality, I think. But what gets him up this high is that, once again, top three peak in the game's history without a shadow of a doubt. Like, absolutely way ahead of anyone else outside of the top two players on this list. I think his
Hmm.
AF got down to like 3.5. just some stupid number. Like this was the highest players page peak ever relative to era, but that's also one of the things hurting Fox. He was an incredibly dominant force, but it was during the weakest era in the game's history. He got up to, I think, 11 or 12 concurrent records. Once again, by far the best player in the world, but weak era, not the best record quality. That's what's holding him outside the top three for me.
I'm glad you brought that up. Like, I obviously agree this is the weakest game or weakest period in the game's history, and I agree that he does have one of the things holds him back is certainly record quality. I'm pretty low on his record quality. I do think this is partially a reflection of how he played the game. He was players page focused, and because he just was the best player in the world by such a big margin, he didn't have to exert himself super hard to get these records. And for most of the tracks he had record on, it resulted in him not really pushing them. So I think, again, it's a little bit of a reflection of his play style, but the biggest knock is this is the weakest era of the game that he dominated. I'd like to point out he was fully responsible for Totem rage quitting, and just like that, he wiped out his biggest competition. So I do wonder what the game's history would look like had Totem continued to just put up some resistance into 2016. I wonder if in that alternate universe, Fox plays the game more in 2016. Like his 2015 was dominant. He coasted off of just being so much better than everybody else in 2016 to the tune of like 10 records. And after that, it was pretty much done. You look at 2017, you got a DKM glitch record, a couple MG no shortcut records, which are probably relatively weak records at the time. You have Grumble, another track affected by a glitch, and then you go into 2023 with the comeback, which was incredibly impressive. It's just Bowser's Castle, the state of it
really
now
bad.
and especially then, very unserious. But it was an awesome moment to see him back at the top on a track, albeit for only for 23 days. But again, I think it's important to understand the context of one domino that made the era so weak was Totem just disappearing. Unlike most top players, nobody had really gone out like that before, just instantly. So that deprived him of his biggest competitor. But even outside of that, like it's kind of like Liam, and there really isn't anybody close to the skill level, at least across the entire scope of the game. You had your track specialists who were still around, but even like Yasha didn't set records in 15 or 16. Sword didn't set a record in 2016. It just, and again, the Sword one at least, I'm not sure if it was how much it was because he didn't play the game, or it could have just been because Fox was going off or had gone off in 2015. But I do think part of the reason the era is perceived as even weaker is how dominant he was. I think had more other players just had other records that he held, we might view it slightly differently, even if in that reality the era is actually even weaker than it was with Fox.
Yeah, I think it's interesting thinking about like, if that area had been stronger, its biggest competition was like, I guess the close to him was probably like Cole at that point, and Cole was just playing completely different tracks than Fox was,
Yeah.
at that level. But if there was more competition, maybe it would have pushed Fox more in terms of how deeply he took some of these tracks. Um, I think looking at his records now, I think it shows a lot about how far the game has come in the last 10 years, especially in the 5 to 8 years after him, right?
Mm-hmm.
The game progressed so much. I mean, you look at a 149.7 or like a 149.5 he would put on like TF back in 2016, and that was world record. And you think about now, worldwide tops is a low three.
Yeah, it's just a completely different game.
I
Like,
think
His record he set back then wouldn't be on regs, or wouldn't be on American tops anymore. Not that he's American, but like,
mm-hmm.
still.
Yeah.
Frame of reference.
Fox was like the last bastion of pre-modern driving, and I think that really hurts how a lot of his records sort of stand up to today.
Mm-hmm.
Because even like Liam and Blaze in the 2017-2018 era, they weren't like truly modern driving, like after Luke just came through and revolutionized things, but they were a lot closer to what Luke is than what a
What
Fox was
Fox was,
back then.
for sure. And
I
I
mean,
totally agree with that point. I really do think it hurts him. He really did kind of like perfect the art of like the pre-modern driving, but like it is light years off what Luke brought the standard to, and we saw other players adapt to it more so than him. And it's such an interesting point because like right now, like, and I really do think it's geared to the fact that his focus is online. Like he is one of the fastest online players around because I mean, if you're not aware, like TT speed certainly does not translate to online in your mechanics there. Faster in TTs does not mean you're faster online, and he is able to be incredibly fast online. And I do wonder, and also like online, you have to know your alt lines. You have to be fast from any spot rather than fast from putting yourself in the ideal spot into the turn like you would set yourself in naturally to when you're TTing. So I do think, or I do wonder if part of the reason he's so good at that is linked to like his original driving style, and even to this day, I don't think he's really like learned this more modern way. It's just that he's pushed his way just to the absolute limit. And
Yeah.
I do think that probably holds him back when he's playing tracks and he is on worldwide tops, but he really has no like actual record potential um,
What
because he's just held back.
what Fox was
I
really
would I would give a distinction. I don't think he's the last pre-modern driving player. I think he's kind of like the hybrid, of pre-modern quality with modern strats, if that makes sense. You know, I hear, you hear about, him in terms of, you know, being the first one to really take advantage of soft drifts in like the new way. Um, and just having that sort of control. I just don't think he optimized it, and had the same quality standards that we have today, right? That naturally come with time and optimization. But I think his driving is very distinct from what came before him.
That's
Just
true.
that, you know,
It's very fair.
it just didn't get optimized because he was, the first, right? And there wasn't a ton of competition at that time pushing it further.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think what really stands out about Fox for me is he's one of the best technical players in the game's history. Um, Especially just executing strats like in a way that's really fast. If you see him play Toad's Factory, his shroomless cuts and his lows are just incredible. And that applied to basically everything he played in his prime and even extends to today. The driving might not be at the highest level, but his execution of strats is really, really impressive.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And I don't know. And I think the drive, it's so weird. He's regarded as just one of the fastest players ever when it comes like the online side of the game. And here we're talking about, and mechanically, he's in like the ceiling he has for his mechanics is just like, I don't know, it's probably top five. Um, but and yet at the same time we're talking about his driving limitations on TTs. I think it's such an interesting like duality you have here. But I mean, especially
Yeah,
with when he was setting his records, the driving from these times, they just don't really hold up today. And I mean, you mentioned he's so consistent with little tech and strats on tracks. And it's like when you have that as your superpower and you're beating everything, but also like the reason why you have these records is not the driving, it's that stuff. And I think RMC, like you brought it up, that like perfectly encapsulates what we're talking about. Demon was ahead of him with driving, but Fox did everything else on the track better and ended up with a time that was point 0.2 faster. It's just that was the only one that ended up standing for a long time. A lot of these other ones were beaten a lot faster. Not all. He did have some crazy duration, like his Moo was almost a 1,000 day record. He had TF for over 2 years if you amalgamate all the records together and stuff like that. But
yeah.
so it's just an interesting
It's
point.
just once modern driving came around, he kind of got thwacked on a lot of tracks.
Yeah. So, and then for me, we all have Cole at 3. Unlike the previous segment of guys, this is the first area where we agree. It's also two people, so it's a little
Yeah.
bit easier to get agreement here. But
Two people.
yeah, Cole and Fox.
Oh, I thought you meant two people
No,
on the podcast.
no,
I'm like, I think you're
no.
missing someone.
no.
I think it like two people agreeing.
No,
two players.
Two players. It's a lot easier to agree when you're ranking two players. But yeah, for me, what does it with Cole is, one, I think his case is actually a little bit underrated. And two, it's just Fox's longevity. It's like, it's not bad, but when we're this high up the list and when you have a peak that high, that longevity is just jarring compared to some of these other guys. It is a weakness that I don't know if anyone in the top 7 has a weakness quite like that.
The fall off was jarringly fast.
It was. He went from 100 to 1 and then to 0 once he lost RMC. So, and it obviously would have helped his case had he smoothed off the decline, if he would have played more actively 2016 into 2017. He could have eased the fall, but that's not the reality we live in. Anyways, again, it's the peak, or it's the lack of longevity, but someone like Cole has elite longevity, and I think he has a sneaky peak, and for those reasons, I have Cole above him. Cole himself, over 10K duration, and he had like around 200 days of just kind of like BS records and stuff, but that's still over 10K duration. He hit 5 figures. And after Yash had lost his record, before Cole lost his LC record, there was a point where he had the highest percent of duration in the game. Right now, he finds himself at 78. He set 77 world records. 3 of them were early 2008, and 3 more of them were like GV no shortcut records that don't belong on world record tally. But without those, he's still at 77 or 71 records, and he's doing this across 11 unique categories, all no glitch, and he had a 5 concurrent record peak. And I do think you guys called Fox the best player in the world starting in 2013. I don't know about that. I think Cole had a good best in the world argument at times in 2013 and 2014, which is around the time he peaked at 5 world records. And like Justin, to a much smaller extent, I really do think Cole just he implemented a lot too. I mean, he's obviously the LC GOAT, responsible for most of every like little bit of the high level changes we have there. But completely on the flip side, he implemented something as simple as RR moon jump, and that took the track down a lot. I'm not 100% sure what he did on KC, but I know he had a KC record, and I have a feeling he did something there. But he was King Alex, obviously the first to do his King Alex ramp, but Cole pioneered pushing MC with the ramp. Now, obviously, his ramps were not very good, but he was still the first to really do that, while players like Liam were trying to compete without it. He did the RBC new shroom, or he did the mock bike shroom on Flame Runner, and that saved a ton of time, and that became just the future of the track. He flipped RDH back to Spear, and throughout the years, that's just been consensus not faster. But Acquiesce, I mean, he could get record whenever he has potential. So I mean, Cole showed that it might be a harder vehicle, but it's just as fast. He flipped Moonview completely on its head when he flipped it to Bowser Bike, and that just turned out to be way faster and way easier. And then he was the one to get the Peach Beach sub with a massive 212.992 at the time, just like his LC. Those are 2 of the biggest subs the game's seen. And then also he came back about 10 years later and told us that we were all dumb as rocks for going outside the duck. So like, and I definitely could have even missed something on there. Oh, and then of course he beat Omega on RYF. I don't think he did MT cut. I don't think he introduced anything new.
That was Cole.
Just such a...
Cole was MT cut.
It was? Okay,
not MT
he is
cut,
MT
strat.
Or sorry, MT strat, yeah. So I mean, that's another huge thing that he did to push a track forward. It's like Cole has had so many little optimizations on top of the longevity, the single track dominance and legacy that he has there. It's just all this stuff together. I really think he has a much more complete argument than Fox, and that's why I have him at 3. And that's why, honestly, it's like obviously close, but I don't have this at some like razor thin margin or game time decision. I'm pretty confident that Cole is the third best player of all time, even if Fox is really close behind him.
So I wanted to add into Cole's Koopa Cape. You mentioned I looked into it. He was the first to he changed the shroom strat there.
Okay.
So Aubrey, who had the record before him, he shroomed at the grass where we do the shroom list now.
He did it at the end.
Cole used
Oh no.
no
The ramp.
no he used his shroom on the wheelie ramp.
Yes.
Cutting off the wheelie ramp, and
Okay.
he did the drift and like the turns the shroomless turn skip, but without touching the grass. He like cut off less,
Okay.
and then went to the right of like the rock.
Yes.
Um,
The shitty
but yeah,
shroomless. So he was
yeah,
introduced that.
exactly.
I thought he did
Yep.
something pretty big. That's pretty cool, and it's just hilarious.
Wait,
I
Cole
guess
used the
without the
shroom there?
yeah,
Yeah.
Bro. He did the
Well,
flap
again,
shroom 3 times.
dude, this
Mhm.
is what I'm telling
That's
you.
insane.
Totem's KC is not serious. This is the competition that he had. Like, I really respect. Like, again, I think I had Totem too low, and I really respect a lot of the other stuff he did. Not so much the KC. I mean, like Mander obviously had his task that was over a second faster than everybody else, but at least that showed you the right strategies to do. Everybody else was just trolling.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So. But yeah, I don't know, Matt. Do you want to go into more of the specific times that Cole had, or do you have anything else that you want to mention too? Just
Yeah,
overall.
I'll go into some of the specific times. A lot of the ones are ones that you've mentioned. I mean, RPB, the big sub to 112. It only lasted 400 days. I think that really sells it short as a world record. That was an incredible time. It's just that Liam came around and was somehow way better and got a point 0.8 not that
Yeah,
long after, which was
those are
one of the
both
greatest times
amazing
in the game's
times.
history, but I don't want that to take away from Cole's 112. His RYF time, I think is a little overrated. You know, it lasted almost 1,700 days. It was the first sub. It beat Omega, but like it only cut 30 milliseconds off Omega's time, which itself was a 1,000-day record. And I think RYF just didn't get enough serious competition in those days.
Yeah.
It still doesn't. Like it.
This is another discussion, another
Yeah.
rabbit hole.
His RDH records are really, really impressive. His 135.0, 134.8 on the spear, like, dude, that track is so hard. And on the spear, probably even more so. It's just super impressive. And then, I mean, like you said, he told us all to stop being stupid on RPV and go inside the duck. I don't know what people were thinking for like the past 10 years, but I'm glad he corrected us. And all of that just gets us to Luigi Circuit, which, you know, you might not agree with me on this. I think is the second greatest track specialist sort of thing of all time, only behind Demon on
Track
Treeway.
dominance.
I think
Yeah,
Cole was
I'd
just
buy it.
so far ahead to a point that maybe no other player on any other track in the game's history other than Demon on Treeway has ever been. I mean, this guy
Mhm.
was in a 108 when second worldwide might have been a 109.3. Maybe it was better. I don't remember. It was.
No, it was at one point. And one thing I do want to mention about that, like Cole is playing an infinitely harder game than Blake or Demon is. Like you
Yeah.
have turn skip and Jimmy. You have some insanely high barrier to entry strategy on a no glitch track with crazy hard tech in it versus a track that's less than 70 seconds long that's just raw driving, and it's also the spear, and
Yeah.
that is just an environment that is infinitely harder to dominate. I think you could make an argument with him being more dominant than Demon. Obviously his longevity is gonna not age as well because Demon's gonna have that for the foreseeable future and Cole's already been beat. But like the environment that Cole set, this like the dominance that he did on LC is just kind of unthinkable. Like it's no
Yeah.
coincidence that DK Summit, the Jimmy, and Treeway with the turn skip are the tracks where you get these crazy dominant track specialists. But to do it on a track like LC is kind of mind boggling.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. It's just like He was so far ahead when he got the first 108. He was so far ahead when he got his .8. He was so far ahead when he got his .7. And Casey was active at that point, and he was still ahead by over .2. And it's like, it's just incredible. I don't know if we'll ever see that level on a track without one of those game-breaking strats ever again.
Probably not.
Yeah. He was, maybe in the argument for the GOAT spear player at a time. Definitely, I think, was arguably the best player in the world. I think he's the longevity GOAT of this game. He has great total volume over a very long period of time through just about every era except like the very, very modern one. And I said it was a game time decision. I say it's on a knife's edge. And that's just because I think Fox's peak is so much higher than Cole's peak.
Of course.
I just had to give it to him with the longevity and the sheer dominance he had on Luigi Circuit for such a long time.
It's really hard. It's really hard to put a guy like Fox at number 4 here, based on how much he dominated the game in his time. But, obviously there's the top 2, which we'll get to. But it's hard to put anyone else above Fox. But, if there's anyone who could do that, it's Cole. And I think he does, Like you said, he doesn't have the peak, but dude's been doing it since 2008.
Yeah.
He did it in 2008. The game came out, and he did it, till 2020, and until that record got beat, or until that Luigi Circuit run got beat, right?
First record
which was I think 2023, right? So that's what 15 years where he pretty much had a record for most of the time, or almost all of the time, and it wasn't like he was just picking up random records as he could, or like not pushing out. He was pushing tracks and truly being a trailblazer on them. I think Luigi Circuit stands above them all. He held that record for 8 years in a row, starting in 2013. Or actually,
it was longer. It was 10.
Way longer.
He had a 3,700 day.
It was 10 years. Sorry, yeah, it was 10 years, and that was after he had already had the record before. I mean, absolutely incredible player, dominant, but in a different way than Fox, right? And when you mix that dominance that he had over, you mix that dominance with the variety and with the time, it's hard to put Fox over Cole.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. But also, like, this begs the question, how good were J-Boy and Glacian to be able to take this track from Cole? Like,
well, that's my 1 and 2.
Oh, of course. We've been talking about this entire time. You're so right. Do you guys have anything more that you'd like to say about either of these guys before we move on?
No, I'm ready for the drama.
So.
Okay.
Yeah, let's get to
this. Is going to be pure cinema. I genuinely have no idea who you guys have here. Quickly, before we get into that, Nate has sent me his list, and it also has some rationale for last week's list. We can still get into this at the end if we have time. I personally don't care how we go, how long we go. Some of it is crazy. We just touched on it though. Obviously, we were all consensus that Cole was above Fox. This motherfucker had Fox over Cole. I mean, again, you got to respect the peak from Fox, but I think we laid down the case for why we might think otherwise. He was so set 5. And then I don't know what he was doing when he was ranking Yashin's, or they are a little down there. So that's a little sneak peek if we actually end up saying the whole thing on the pod. But let's get into the top 2. How do we want to unveil this one?
I don't even know the best way. Like, I don't know a way to do it that gives both of them the justice they deserve.
Yeah.
Let's just say we got it number 1.
Let's start with Luke. Let's start with Luke because Luke happened first, and then we'll talk about Logan, but we should first unveil who we have where.
Okay.
So who wants to unveil? first.
I don't want to be the first to unveil.
Okay, I'll say it. I'll be the guy. I have Luke over Logan just by the finest of margins.
I will say that I also have Luke at number 1.
I guess that makes 3 of us.
Wow.
But I also have Luke over Logan.
I think this one's closer than 3 and 4 though. This is so tough.
It is. This is, and us, all 3 of us picking Luke over
That's
Logan
surprising.
doesn't do justice to how close this is. And I think we're all gonna take Luke's side here, and argue and make the case that he deserves number 1. I don't want that to take away from Logan and how truly close this is, because there is an argument for Logan, and it's a damn good argument.
Yeah, and again, I think this really sells him short that we all picked Luke here. This was one of the reasons I was kind of upset Nate wasn't going to be on the pod. I knew he was going to pick Logan, and I knew that there was a chance that we were all going to pick Luke. So I liked the idea of having Nate there because I knew where I was going, and I also knew where he was going to go. So I knew we'd have one person on each side minimum. I actually didn't see this coming. I thought one of you guys would have Logan at the top spot.
I did as well. I thought you might have flipped Spencer, and I was actually expecting Hydration to have Logan at number 1.
Yeah, and the one I flipped was...
I was very secretive about who I had.
I told you I flipped, and that was Sword and Yasha, and maybe erroneously, but I do think I had merit for why. And then also was the Liam jump up. It's the other thing I teased. But no, I was steadfast in who my 1 was. But again, it is so close. So let's stop yapping about that. Let's actually talk about them. So who wants to talk about Luke first?
I'd love to. Y'all down with that?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Go
for it.
Yeah. Yep. So Luke, man, 120 world records. Just a ridiculous number. 116
and none of them were Koopa Kate bullshit.
On no glitch. Only had 4 glitch records. A duration of over 23,400 days. And despite having such an insane volume, his record quality is still probably the second highest ever, only behind Sosis. Like, this guy's record page is just legendary. I mean, he is the GOAT on MC3. His MC3 record might be the best record of all time. He is the GOAT on RBC. His RBC record also might be the best record of all time. He is like the king of Delfino, was an incredible Toad's Factory player. He's probably the GOAT on Daisy Circuit, was an incredible RMC player. He's maybe the GOAT of BC3. Like, he's one of the best Goldmine players of all time. This guy was just so good in so many places. Like, getting to his timesheet, I mean, 141 MKL points, which is third, but like we mentioned in the previous episode, MKL points don't do him any justice to how good his timesheet is. He's the second best total time at a 56.33, which is absolutely gapping everybody except for Logan. And that's without even, like, this man does not touch the spear. So he is inting on a lot of tracks here. And what made him so good is that he is arguably the best pure driver in the game's history. I think there's cases for, a Sosis or a Casey to have maybe gotten up to his level in different ways, but Luke was the original, like back in 2017, 2018. He is the one who really ushered in the era of modern driving by just being so fast. And more importantly, I think, he was so incredibly consistent with his driving. And that's what allowed him to be one of the most dominant forces the game's ever seen, maybe the most dominant force the game has ever seen at his peak. I think you said he got up to 14 records at one point, Spencer?
Let me look.
It was
I think he had 13.
13. Okay, yeah, something like that. But when this guy was at his best from 2018 to like early 2022, everybody in the community was just terrified of seeing him hop on their track because they knew if he did, there's nothing you can do. Unless you're Vincent and somehow manage to win a record battle, he is snatching your chain. He is taking your record in like a
Yeah,
week
he
or
was
two,
built different.
and you're not getting it back. The knocks on Luke, he struggles a little bit with tech and new strats. He has done some work with like he's not a bad tech player by any means. He's a very good tech player. It's just compared to like some of these other goats, he's not quite at that same level. I think he is easily the greatest no glitch player of all time. And, I think something that is crazy to say about a guy who has over 23,000 days of total duration, this guy has gotten absolutely shafted by new strats cutting his record short. It's ridiculous how many times this has happened to him. He's just so good in every way, man.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of no glitch, there's no player like Luke. The way he's able to take a track, optimize it, and dominate it. I think something underrated about him is his ability to adapt to new strats. This I think a big knock is a big knock on a player like Sosis. But you look
Yeah.
at Luke on a Koopa Cape or a BC3 or a Goldmine or an RDS, or even or a DKJP, all of those tracks had, in some way a pretty major change to him, whether it was one strat or multiple. And he just took it in stride.
Yeah.
He took it as a way to separate himself, right? And make the track, more uncompetitive. But I also want to talk about when he loses. Because it's not like he only plays the tracks where he has records on. He's second worldwide on TF, which, and on that track a decent gap from third. It's truly a Logan and Luke race there right now. With other players having an outside shot. Sorry. When you look at just his timesheet in general, what he's able to do on the no glitch side, there's very few players who can truly, compete with it. Who can truly make a dent to try to players who can compete outside of their record total. I think Luke really has a gap there. And I'll get more into the comparison of Logan once we start talking about Logan. But 14 uniques. He didn't farm world records. It wasn't like that his 120 world record totals, farmed. It's truly him pushing down tracks and improving at the game.
Yeah.
And he's just had a giant impact on the tracks he's played. And has held or, is in contention on the hardest, most optimized tracks in the game. Something I like to talk, we talk about MC3 and TF and all that. Something I want to talk about is RBC. You look at his RBC time, which is exactly 0.4 ahead of second worldwide. And I know it's a long track, but 0.4 is a long amount of time. I was thinking, if you take out Luke's run, that would probably consider one of the more optimized worldwide tops in the game. Like one of the better worldwide tops.
For sure. 100%.
But because of how far Luke is ahead on that track, it just doesn't even it doesn't look like that. Exactly. He's doing inhuman things against humans on that track. And it's one of the few records that I think if left could last till 2030.
Yeah.
For sure.
It was ahead of its time and it's going to go way beyond the current time.
And it's also like so far ahead, it's just demoralizing. Nobody wants to try to play that track. It's like you get second worldwide, that's your world record because you're not getting there. Dude, it's crazy. And to think that he had a chance to have it even be faster with that one pace that had 0.3 potential, like, it's absurd what he's been able to do to that track. But I think it sells him short to get too caught up on even his two best tracks, even if they are arguably the two best world records in the game. Like, he's really done it all. For a pure driver, or for a guy who's going to be always in the conversations for GOAT pure driver, he really is good at tech. Like you said, he has adapted to new strats. There are lots of tracks where he's let go and said, I don't want to compete with some of the new stuff like Moonview, Gorge,
EDR.
BC3, Shortcut, DDR, RMC. But the only reason this list is so long is because he's had like I think 16 unique categories. All
14. Or sorry, categories.
yeah, except
Yeah.
one of them is gonna be Shy Guy Beach Glitch, so that doesn't really count. But so we'll say 15 unique categories. So it's just the stuff he's been able to do is so impressive. And before we talk about Logan, I think one separator for me is it's like we mentioned this before. Luke is the best no shortcut player. And I know that Logan is the best glitcher of all time. He might not be currently the best glitcher because he's been so inactive, especially on glitches for so long. But when I think about like the totality of what they've done, it's like give me that raw like just the raw quality of his records and doing it all on the no glitch side, and I think that is what makes my decision for me.
Yeah.
But with that, do we want Riley or sorry, Matt, do you want to say anything else about Luke right now?
Yeah, there's a couple more things I wanted to add just as like
Okay.
clarifications. When I said like he's not the best tech player and not the best at adapting to strats, it is really only in
relative.
comparison to the other guy we are talking about. He is absolutely incredible at it. It's just that the other guy is a freak of nature. And then one stat that I think is, absolutely ridiculous. When you look at MKWRS recently added this, the total time cut by players on no glitch. What would you expect, right? You expect players from the earliest eras of the game, and you expect players who are like track specialists on like a Treeway or a DK Summit on a track that just has a busted strat that can save a ton of time, right? And that's what you see. You see guys like Vayu and Yasha and Yavieron.
Respect.
Cole, a bunch of really old school players. You see a Demon, you see a Flam Bam Bam, you see a Blake, guys on tracks that had strats that allowed them to save so much time. And then above them all, standing alone, just putting his nose to the grindstone and shaving time with driving is Luke. It's just incredible. I mean, if you watch some of his earliest world records, it's actually hilarious how much better at driving this guy was than everyone else. Like he was beating Fox on TF and Sword on RDS while basically not knowing how to play the tracks. He couldn't do the strats well, but he just outdrove them so much that it didn't matter.
Yeah. And the other thing with the total time cut is even if you take out his dock, I'm not taking out his entire Delfino because he wouldn't be first, but obviously that's not accurate. If you just take out the time he cut with dock, he would still be first on this list. And that's like really the only like kind of like track breaking strategy that he's actually done to like get this total time cut. And he's still above. And I also like shout out Vayu. I have no idea how he's second. That's like kind of crazy. Considering
it was a Parkway
there are other
demon
people on this list. It's like Demon's at 7, is Blake's at 11. And Luke is closer to like if we added Demon and Blake's total together than like Demon or Blake is to him individually, which is just absolutely insane. So, and again, I don't think total time cut is like it's not a very useful strat for ranking players, but I think it really highlights how much Luke just completely took over the game and pushed it to an incredibly new standard. And the other thing I think this hurts Fox's legacy a lot is perhaps Luke's progression in terms of the game's history wasn't normal. Luke was probably just 4 or 5 years ahead of schedule, and it literally forced everyone else to adapt, and it made Fox look like a bum in terms of his records falling in 2017, 2018. So I mean, and that's just a testament to how much of a freak of nature Luke is. So, and also, it's really close. Like, Logan's peak is immensely high as well. But in terms of gap but not like the highest level reach, but just gap between him and the rest of the game. I think prime Luke on his come up is probably the most dominant player we've ever seen. So, like his peak is, I mean, yes, obviously he has a high peak if he is 13. It could be 14. I'm not 100% sure on that. But if he has 13 or 14 consecutive records, like obviously that's a high peak. But I think that even kind of undersells how high his peak actually was. Like you said, Matt, you were if you had a record on a track, you were literally praying that he didn't pick your track because outside of like a special few guys, like you were just cooked. So, but with that, are we ready to get into Logan?
Yes.
Riley, do you want to lay out the case for Logan?
Yeah,
Well,
I'd love to.
obviously you don't have to argue
Um,
for him over Luke, but like let's
no,
just
yeah,
just
but
talk about him
I think there's things that make him special
for sure.
and that are his advantages over Luke. I think that are important to mention. First of all, he's winning the world record battle. It's 121 to 120, very close. Logan dominates on uniques. He
Hmm.
did a unique track grind, just trying to set a record on as many tracks as possible, however he could, and he's at 23, which is incredibly impressive. Um, that's the highest in this game's history. And there's the closest is Fox and Nobilo, right? That are 4 and 5 off respectively. Um, he's the players page champ. He's at I think 1,700 days,
Yeah.
maybe more. Yeah, 1,725 days as of recording this video. And he dominates. You know, Mitch is starting to starting to come up on the combined uh, three up and flap chart. Um, but he's still almost 4 AF away, like 3.5, 4 AF away. You know, when Logan took over from Justin, no one thought anyone was taking it from Justin for a very long time. Um, he was so dominant on the AF leaderboard just because he had such a strong timesheet. But Logan set his mind to it and just took it. Um, I think the God sheet is something that, while not the best quantitative standard, is an insane accomplishment that no one has been able to replicate, and I don't think will be for a while. Um, even Justin and Mitch aren't that close to it. But yeah, I mean, he has he has the record on the strongest worldwide top in the game, being TF. He's getting close to that 148. If he were to come back, I'm sure he could probably get it. And a set a number of really strong records. I believe he's the most complete player in the game's history.
No doubt.
Um,
For
Absolutely.
sure. Yeah.
I think I think his biggest weakness is in pure driving. I don't think he truly has a record that is pure driving. I think his closest is MH. Um, in terms of really just raw driving ability. Most of his records have some element of tech in them. Think of RMC. With the fast doubles and all that. I think Daisy Circuit was another good example, but even that has the stair dive, right? Um,
He's right up
but I think
there.
in terms of true, yeah. But I think in terms of true driving, the MH is his best version of that, and maybe Moo Meadows as well. But he doesn't have an LC or a GV2 or an MC3 or anything like that. He has great times there. Don't get me wrong, but he's not at that world record caliber, right? So I think that's his biggest weakness. But you can't talk about Logan without talking about shortcuts and glitches. Um, and I think a lot of the reason why he's not going to be number one on our list is simply that we don't value glitches as high. I think all of us, in agreement to different degrees, value no shortcut records higher than glitch records, for a number of reasons, which we could get into. But because that definitely hurts Logan, um, it makes his record count seem a little bit less impressive than Luke's. Um, Looking at Logan's world record count, of his 121 world records, only 36 of them are non-shortcut. When you look at Luke, of his 120, 117 of them are non-shortcut records. It's a huge disparity there in terms of the number of overall no shortcut records. Um, I think one thing that hurts Logan maybe more than it should, and I tried to avoid as much bias when making my decision here, um, but I think what he did on Koopa Cape in terms
Yeah,
of farming records and
that
Yeah.
was
standing at and
bad.
sitting at the finish line, I think it hurts his legacy so much. It added what, like 10 records to his
9.
nine records to his record total.
Bro, Justin
But and
coming through with the
sure,
ethical
if
cheating.
Yes, very ethical. This is like the opposite of our discussion earlier. What's the first unethical record? What's the most ethical cheated run?
you know, and I think that only really lowers his record total by maybe like 4 or 5. I still think he gets a couple Koopa Cape
Oh, for
records,
sure.
but he doesn't get 9 of them, right? At least 9 of them on a 2.5 3 second cut, right?
Mhm.
But so I think that hurts his legacy. Whether he, you know, as much as we're trying to, well, obviously we keep quality records in mind, but him farming records isn't gonna, I don't. Yeah, I think you get what I'm saying. Am
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
not
yeah,
wording it
it
great?
makes the difference
well,
But
between
yeah,
him being ahead and behind Luke.
for sure.
that's fair.
And I
Yeah,
think also you mentioned 36 no glitch records. Those added up for a little over 1100 days, or sorry, 11,000 days in duration, um, which is like for reference is about 1,000 less than Sosa's. But also like if you just look at his no glitch records, like the quality of them is insanely high.
It
Like
is.
the 36 no glitch to that level of duration is incredibly high. And I think one of the best arguments, while perhaps not fair because it's entirely theoretical, but it's like, and also because we don't get to see the future, but like with Luke, Luke hit this insanely high peak and then we saw him fall down as far as like 4 records. And a lot of that was due to Logan. But with Logan, he gets to this apex and it really does feel hopeless in terms of ever having world record diversity ever again. And then he stops playing and what is he still at, 8 or 9?
He's at
9.
He's
9.
still at 9. And it's just like you think if he would have kept playing, like you just don't really feel like he would have slowed down. But ultimately, like I don't think I can give him that credit because he didn't actually do it. But I
Yeah.
think like in your gut, if you're feeling Logan is better, I think that is a huge contributing factor to it because like like well, unfortunately compared to like it being reality, but it's like we saw the reality of Luke fall. We didn't see the reality of Logan fall while like fighting against it. It was literally he just decided to step away and touch the game once and like completely break MH. Um, and then he went back into MK World hibernation. But like, and again, you touched on the KC stuff. I'd mentioned it a couple times before across the 2 pods. It's like that stuff really does irk me. In terms of like our criteria, it really shouldn't hurt him because it doesn't like take away value in terms of that specific criteria. That being said, it just feels so icky and also it kind of feels worse because it's like we could actually have like a total record battle between Luke and Logan. Even if I do think like Luke doing it on no shortcut is a lot more impressive. But the problem with Logan is, I mean, he just added 9 to his tally. Like, I agree, he would have had some KC glitch records, but he'd still probably have less than Luke instead of having one more. And again, total record, that's not going to put one of these players at 1 or at 2 based on how it is. But it is just an interesting like anecdote that like 2 players can play against each other for. And because of what happened on KC, that's not really an option. Um, and also, I do want to touch a lot of his like glitch records. There are a lot of them that are just completely like no glitch driving dependent, um, like BC3 and DKM. So a lot of his records are like kind of like they're really not that much different in my mind from an MT no glitch. It's just that like on DKM this happens to be classified as a glitch, whereas on Treeway it doesn't. So I do think there's a big gray area when it comes to categories like that, and that's probably a different discussion. So in my head, I'm also going to be giving Logan even more of this like kind of like no glitch like driving based duration. But even with all of that, and even beating Luke's like concurrent world record peak. I think I just have to have Luke as number one. But again, we've laid out why Logan is, for all intents and purposes, pretty much just as good.
Yeah. I mean, as we said, Logan is by far the most complete player of all time. He's the GOAT glitch player. He is the other guy that I think is in the argument for the best tech player ever with Connor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he is a top 5 pure driver ever. And quite frankly, he's gotten to such a high level, he's maybe even top 3.
And that's his weakness. And that's
yeah,
the weakness
that's his
we're dealing
weakness.
with is top 3. Like, I totally agree. I think people kind of sleep on him as a pure driver. But, like, the level that he reached before he quit before World, and will still maintained, as you can see through, like, a track like Moonview, is absolutely absurd. So,
yeah. I think, he has 86 glitch records, but as far as glitch records go, he played them in one of the better eras for glitch record strength. Like, I don't think it's the same as like the mid to late 2010s glitch records. I respect his glitch records a lot more. If not, it's not to the same level as I respect no glitch records, but I don't consider most of his glitch records to be fluff. They are very legitimate times.
I mean, context to everything is just so important.
Yeah. He's one of the best track specialists ever on DKM, just incredibly dominant. I think his MH record is, maybe it's up there for the best record in the game. I don't know if I'd pick it as the best, but certainly up there. And something else to mention about this guy, like, he is miles ahead in terms of being the most clutch player ever. This guy is a god of lap 3. I don't think I've ever seen him fail a run on a lap 3. It's just,
it feels like that.
It's so demoralizing to try and compete against, because you're like, yeah, this guy gets one opportunity, he's gonna convert. I've got to get like 50, and maybe I'll finish 1. Yeah, I mean, he has the best total time ever. He's currently the best player in the game, had one of the most dominant peaks ever, arguably the most dominant. He got up to 15 records, like you said. It's just, I think we'll talk about this on another pod soon. I don't know if it's good or bad for the game that he stepped away. He was almost
that's very
too
subjective.
good.
That's kind of, even though, like, again, like, Luke felt like he was too good, but the era didn't actually last long. Like, the Logan era of being too good would have lasted for years.
Yeah.
So
with Luke, it was,
yeah.
Luke had some spots where you could, pick holes in his abilities and maybe catch up and take advantage of him in certain areas. Logan has absolutely 0 holes. He is by far the best player to ever touch the game. And it's just like, how do you compete with the guy?
He has no holes, and on top of that, his superpower is finishing runs. Like, once he gets to lap 3, it's like actually an unbeatable combination.
Yeah.
It's just like, how is anyone supposed to compete against that? And that's the other thing. It's like part of Logan's dominance is he's doing it over a more wide variety of tracks, and his skill set just kept getting better, more well-rounded, to the point where it's like, oh my gosh, if he really wanted to, he probably could get some of these pure driving records. Whereas with Luke, it was like he kind of capped out about how many tracks he could get record at once, because like the tracks that were catered to him, he basically had all of them already. There weren't a lot that fit the mold, or even if they kind of fit the mold, it was like Sosa's was there. And it's like, well, that's going to be really difficult or something like this.
With Logan, it just feels like there's no limit. Except for like Spear, which he is. I mean, he's good at Spear, but it's like he's not quite there with the vehicle.
The Spear records are safer for longer, at least, in the hypothetical where he never stops playing.
I mean, with the Spear, he got like 9 records in like 8 days.
I will
6 days.
I will say,
what are you guys talking about?
Like, I want to talk about a different glitch record. I just remember when he set that RBC. That of like the type of glitch records that are like, make it once and then survive the rest of the track because you did it the first time, or like it's just insanely hard to make. Like, his RBC is my favorite of that category of glitch by far.
Yeah.
Um,
And he's
and
able
even
to
if
make
the
it so
difficulty of
nice.
it, yeah, and the difficulty of it didn't age so well, but to be honest, the difficulty of pretty much every single glitch in the game, besides maybe RR Spear, which is a completely different tangent, has like aged poorly. Like every like the community
Yeah.
has made it so that like none of these glitches are like actually that exclusive. Like people have been able to kind of make them all. So
Yeah,
and
I
he
think
was the
that's
first to make other glitches too. But then you also have like some like fucking RSL Magi records that are like, yeah, we can throw these away. These are not the same caliber. But yeah.
yeah. I think that's one of the hard things with glitches is that glitch records just don't age as well as no shortcut records, and I think part of that comes down to the ability to compare. I think no shortcut records, while not perfect, are a lot easier to compare, across time, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like an RBC record, you look at MKL right now, and you're like, oh yeah, it was cool that Logan was the first to make RBC, but his time kind of sucks. He really didn't do that well or do that much with the track. But if you look at it with the context of, what December of 2020 looked like, and the hype around that glitch, it's a completely different perspective of it. But how do you compare, RBC to a track like Goldmine
Mm-hmm.
compared to a track like RMC Glitch, right? They're completely different glitches from each other, and have completely different contexts around them. And it can be hard to value it, and which I think makes a lot of times glitches, less valued.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think,
Yeah.
no glitch records are a lot easier to judge, and they're a lot more uniform with each other. Um, you can look at MMM now versus, let's say, RSL, and then compare it, 10 years ago, right? And see how different they were, and do some, mental gymnastics to sort of, make some, what's it called? Like projections or guesses, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you really can't do that with glitches because it's so nonlinear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
No.
and the one last thing I wanted to say is like even just comparing like RBC to Goldmine, just the nature of progression on these tracks as a whole, it's like Goldmine. You just get better at the pipe bounce. Yes, there have been some new strategies and optimizations, but like you're kind of just doing the same thing. And like when you get better at it, you actually get better at it. Like Logan to make RBC just slammed into this pole for 17 straight days or something, and then finally got it to work. And it's like 3+ years later, we find out, oh, it's we didn't actually get better at clipping the pole. We just got better pole clipping strategies, which opened the doors to making the glitch a lot more like accessible and stuff. So
Yeah.
the progression on glitches like that is also just super weird because it's not really people perfecting their craft like it is on No Glitch or some other glitch records. It's literally, oh, we just found a better strategy and now this is way easier and now I can it's like I'm 20 times more likely to make this. So I get 20 more times attempts to do the driving portion of it or whatever and to just get the overall faster time. So
This was. This is something we'll talk about in an upcoming pod. But I think in the past, especially, a lot of glitches were just like you said, like a make it and just kind of exist and you get it. And so glitching was just like you don't really need any prerequisite skills like you do with no glitch. No glitch is about an amalgamation of like being a really complete player and building up a ton of skills over time, whereas glitch is just, especially in the past, were like, can you learn one strat? That's all you got to do.
mm-hmm.
You got to figure out this one thing, and it's going to be one really, really difficult thing, but it's not something you really
Yeah.
have to be as complete with. And that's why it doesn't carry
Yeah.
All,
over as
all, all
much.
all of the all of the difficulty is concentrated in one area.
Yeah,
Or, I'm speaking generally here, but it's all the difficulties concentrated in one area, which can make it again really hard to compare.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is part of the reason why it's so nonlinear.
yeah. Nowadays, at the highest level of glitches, I think that's changed a bit, and we'll talk about that soon.
Yeah. So, anyways, we've strayed pretty far off of the Luke versus Logan. We've gotten into some glitch versus no glitch debate, which
Well, I mean,
That's
I
a
think
large
by
part of the
proxy it
debate
is.
here,
It's
though.
and
definitely
it is,
relevant,
No, and I
right?
think it's great discussion too. But I also know that we're running on near 3 hours.
Yeah.
So,
Can we
is there
briefly
any?
talk about Nate's list? Do we have time?
Oh yes. Would you like to do that? Is there anything you want to add to the Luke versus Logan debate?
They're both
I don't think so. I think yeah, they're
they're
both
both the goat,
the
man.
the
Okay.
yeah, they're top two for a reason.
Mhm.
hmm
I think we do some quick rage of Nate's list and then leave it off and let the comments decide.
Yeah. Before that, can you guys like say
Yeah,
your
yeah.
top 10? Go from 10 to 1.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I can go first. So I have. Are we doing just 10-1 or 20-1?
Just go 10 to 1. I mean, they'll have the
Okay.
graphic from the last video, so I think that's
Yeah.
enough.
At 10, I have Chaos. At 9, I have Totem. At 8, I have Breaksin. At 7, I have Sosis. At 6, I have Yasha. At 5, I have Sword. At 4, I have Fox. At 3, I have Cole. At 2, I have Logan. And at 1, I have Luke.
So at 10, I have Totem. At 9, I have Justin. At 8, I have Connor. At 7, I've got Tomothy. At 6, I have Yasha. At 5, I have Sosis. At 4, I have Fox. At 3, I have Cole. At 2, I have Logan. And at 1, I have Luke.
At 10, I got a man simply named Justin. At 9, I got Connor for world record. Number 8, I got the creator of the ugliest me in the history of the game,
Oh
Liam.
my god, it's not that
At
bad.
7, it's pretty bad. At 7, I got my goat, Yasha. At 6, I got Nasty Man. At 5, I have Torch Glitch himself, Sosis. 4, VA Fox. 3, Evil Cole. Number 2 is Logan. And number 1 is Luke.
All right.
So
Let's hear
with
Nate
that, those are
Schultz's list.
yeah, those are our top 20s. Well, those are our top 10s combined with the 11 to 20 that we had from episode 1. Nate could not make either of these pods, even though he prepped before, so we're just going to include his lists and clown them briefly. So his list starting at number 20, he has Enmead. I think that's
Okay.
very much in the range that we
Yeah,
had him.
that's reasonable.
Yeah, that's okay.
At
Yeah.
number 19, big ups for Riley. He's got Bubbles.
Let's go.
He has some notes for some of these players. He did for Enmead. I think that goes without saying. Bubbles, he had 1x player of the year in 2009. Had good players page stats while also racking up world records on 9 unique tracks. And then he said he lacks longevity.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I put 0 value on player of the year. You know, as much as he's in the same spot, dude, freaking Luke Barrel won player of the year.
I've
You know,
actually,
I'm not
toolbox.
putting shit on that.
I've actually gotten
No, I think,
higher on
like-
Bubbles the last 2 days after talking to Thomas NL about him.
I think so too.
You actually talked to Thomas
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, do you have anything to say about
Interesting.
that real quick?
Yeah, he just said that Brendan back in the day was actually competing for Players Page Champ and was actually just never able to beat Bubbles out for it. So
Really?
Oh,
a lot
really?
of respect
Okay.
to Bubbles there.
Yeah, I still.
Well, I guess Brendan does have some players page award points.
Mhm.
He's at 10.
Okay. Yeah, no.
Wow.
I don't even know what that means. I just said yeah.
So you see, okay, let me explain it quick.
Okay.
You get 1 point for player of the week, 2 for player of the month, 5 for player of the quarter, and 10 for player of the year.
This is a
Okay.
terrible point system.
Yeah, this is awful, but we're gonna move past that. That can be a whole other discussion. So, yeah, like again, I think I perhaps overlooked Bubbles. I think it's hard to
I
do
did
that
too.
without the context of perhaps how competitive player not player of the year, but just AF champ was. I do think I kind of over-indexed some of the old guys into the world records. That being said, I do think I do really like what Brendan did, and from my vantage, like I still would have him in the list. I should not have had him over Chaos. Chaos is a better player than Brendan. I just wanted to show him some love. Anyways, back to Nate's list. At 18, he had Core. He says best pure glitcher of all time. absolute domination on total time, underrated longevity, worldwide tops on every ultra shortcut.
Hey, invincible MKW. I know you're happy here in core.
Yeah, I hope you've made it this long because there's your core shout out. Unfortunately, I don't think I don't think any of us really considered him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's super impressive what he's done on glitches. But he's done absolutely nothing on no glitch. And 4 of his 10 world records were like early day Rainbow Road records,
Mm-hmm.
right? He had the 2 for 3, he has a 3 for 3, right? But 4 of them. So if you take that down, he's down to 6 records.
Yeah.
6 records. No matter how quality of records those are, I just don't see you being able to really justify a spot on this list.
When you're especially from like the modern era and you're competing
Yeah.
on glitches and not no glitch, it's just a really tough sell.
Yeah.
It's not enough
At
record
17
volume,
and
not
16,
enough timesheet.
yeah. At 17 and 16, I have some huge problems. At 17, he wrote Vayu, and his notes were Mog's Nobuo, and this is just straight line.
Bang! Nah. Respect.
This is straight
respect.
And again, I love Vayu. I love the fact that, Riley, you had him in your top 20, even if I don't really think there's much of an argument. Just put him at 17 and to say he Mog's Nobuo is genuinely insane, and it completely discredits the early portion of the game.
I will say.
No, but okay.
On my list, way down there, I did have Vayu 1 spot ahead of Nobuo.
But you were super low
and you
on
should.
him. Nah.
And you should, because here, let me explain my reasoning here. So, Nobuo wins by 1 in the world record battle. He wins by 7 in the unique category, which I'll give to him, right? But he set 34 of his world records in the first 2 months of the game coming out. A bunch of like early day records that I think we all agree we don't value very much.
Early day volume.
So you take that out, and he has 13 later records.
Mm-hmm.
And sure, he gets them mostly in like 2010, in that era of the game, and his ability to come back and do that, insanely impressive. And having 3 concurrent world records for most of 2010, insanely impressive. And I'll give him his flowers for that. But Vayu did the same thing but better. He held 3 concurrent world records in 2011, which was later than the original thing. He started in May of 08, which was slightly later than Nobuo, and didn't have as many world records early on. He had great variety, and he had 30 world records from 09 to 11, compared to Nobuo only having 13.
I just really value what Nobuo did in the first 2 months, being a dominant player when, Yab did it the next month, and after that, nobody could dominate the game. So normally, I don't really care about those 08 records in a vacuum. It's just because he was constantly holding more, at least 2, but often it was 3, 4, 5, 6 records at once. That moves me. And because Nobuo still has his comeback, well, obviously Vayu is a better player from 2009 to 2012. Now, if you combine online, I don't know how good Vayu is at online. But anyways, that's not the point. I just still think the early game dominance, well, even if it was partially in an era where Americans have a huge disadvantage, I really do think that's why. If I didn't value that, I wouldn't have Nobuo in the top 20. But it's because I value that I have him this high. I'm high.
So where's Yav then?
I think you're just alone there, Spencer. Out of us.
No, and I think I am here. Well, and that's why I'm saying that it kind of accounts for the difference of where we have him. I'm just kind of shocked 2 people have Vayu in the top 20. As good as I think he is, I think that's a tad high. Again, I think he's really slept on, but I wasn't expecting 2 guys to go in the top 10. Anyways, a guy who I think is worse than Vayu, but lands in here. But again, maybe the old heads who are around for these players paid battles will back this up. But he has Alvin at 16. He lists another player of the year, dominated the 2008 vote. 41 records is the most in a single year ever. 2 2012 records to prove that he isn't a complete 08 merchant. But the problem is they don't move me that much at all.
I'm glad we get a shout for Alvin here.
Yeah.
Yeah. He should have been mentioned more, I guess, as an honorable mention.
Mm-hmm. We just all happen to be lower on him. So
Yeah.
he's got Demon at 15, which is fine.
Hey, that's where
And then
I have
after
him.
this,
Nice.
the list after this gets a little disgusting. I'm not gonna lie. At 14, he is a Liam, which I suppose is reasonable. This isn't where it gets really disgusting, though.
I guess
I think that's pretty low. Anyways, 14, you could argue that he's in this blob. I don't think Nate weighted world record quality enough here. At 13, he is Yasha,
Oh my
which is
god.
just like,
oh no.
which this is like leaving Caleb out of the top 20 level crimes, if not worse.
Okay.
This might be worse.
That's unexcusable, man.
I think this was going to be his quirky take that I'm just low on this guy, and this is just an absolute miss. Like, again,
Nate,
I saw Nate's
you have no
20
idea how
to
good Yasha
11.
was.
Exactly. I saw Nate's 20 to 11, and I'm like, dude, why do you have to miss this? Like, I want you to be able to defend yourself, but like, you can't defend yourself here. It's just really bad. At 12, he has Connor, which is in the range. I think he's low, but that's fine.
I can see
11, he has Sword, which isn't as bad as Yasha, but I still think that's kind of bad. Like,
we can assume
I
he's
don't
giving him
really
the nasty man tax.
yeah, let's say he gets the nasty man tax, and we'll move by that one. At 10, he is Caleb. I don't know how Caleb has snuck in ahead a couple of these guys.
Well, that's where you had him before.
I know, and then I realized I was a little bit too high. Well, but also it's more like he put other guys ahead of guy that are like fair, but he put other heavy hitters below him, and that's the other reason why I say that. He has Totem at 9, so about consensus.
Okay.
At 8, he has Casey, which is like whoa.
Okay.
You know, maybe one day he'll be there, but just not yet.
Yeah.
Where's Blaze at?
Blaze does not make the list.
Oh.
There's a
What?
Okay, dude. Think about this. He has Bubbles, Core, Vayu, Elvin. Like, he has those 4 guys. There's not a lot of room for some of these other guys to make the list.
Yeah, I know, but like I don't get how you make a top 20 and not have Blaze on it. There's players I have above Blaze that I understand how you could not have him in your top 20.
Mm-hmm. I think
because there's more of a a variance. I don't understand how you don't have Blaze.
Yeah, I think with Blaze, you can just give the nod to a lot of 08 guys because he doesn't have huge numbers. But again, I think Nate is not looking at the context of a lot of these world records, and not giving that the credit they deserve. But anyways, he has Casey at 8. He has Justin at 7. Here's some more notes. Number 1, Aura in all
Aura,
caps. Dominated the players page. Records did not have staying power relative to Era. I think 7 is like the high end for
fair.
Justin. I think that is the absolute highest he can go.
This is the kind of list I'd make in like 2021.
Damn, shots are fired. I hope Nate hears that.
Back when I was like players page happy.
Oh, he will enjoy being called a players page kitty by the real players page
said
kitty.
No. I said I was players page happy, not that he was a players page kitty.
It's the same thing. Anyways, he's got breaks in at 6, which is even higher than you. Again, I think there is the argument. Yeah. I don't particularly like it with the context. I think 8 is I don't think Breakson's better than Justin, and they're more comparable players.
He just doesn't have the peak to be up there.
I guess you had Breakson over Justin too. So, and then you get
me?
No. Riley.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it was 8 versus 11. And then the top 5 is
I
same.
I do think those are very close. The 8 to 11, I don't think does it justice to how close it was.
And 5 to 1. It's like he has the same 5. Sosa's at 5, or I guess you didn't have Sosa at 5, so it's a little different. The same top 4. Mm-hmm. But he has both of them flipped, which again would have been cool to have him here for that discourse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel more strongly about the 4 and 3 one. I'll read you his notes about Logan leads in total records. Okay, that's a little bullshit. Leads in unique tracks. It's a good stat. Leads in total duration. Fine, I guess. Leads in AFs for 15% of the game's history. Some of the best aging times of all time. I don't know why that's not listed under Luke. God sheet and then he lists 3-time player of the year. He's got to stop. It's one thing to list player of the year. Dude, it's one thing to list player of the year for a guy in 2009. A 2025 player of the year, or I guess it would have been probably 22 to 24.
Spencer, are we?
Whoa, 2025 was nobody, dude.
Yeah, sorry, it was 22 to 24 probably. This is diabolical.
It was 20, 21, and 23.
Okay.
Are we sure that Nate doesn't have Mitch at like 11th all time?
I mean, I'm pretty sure this says he has Sword at 11. But, I mean, Mitch is also 5 letters.
I don't see Mitch on the player of the year list.
I think that really would have swung it,
He has
Matt.
some, right?
Like, if Mitch would have won 2025 player of the year, I think he makes it onto this list, to be honest. It looks like...
There are no player of the year after 2023. Like, they haven't been added to the site since.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
does Mitch actually not have an official player of the year? That's surprising.
But, like...
I thought he had a couple by now.
What I'm saying is, if he did have an official one, then that would have made all the difference for Nate. I think you're right.
For real.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I think you nailed that one on the head. Oh my gosh. Okay. Should we wrap it up here? Like,
yes.
This was a super fun series to prep for. It was super fun to yap about all these guys, to give our opinions on who we think the greats of the game are. And then, yeah, we hope to continue this pod. I think we have a few, like, our visions aren't completely aligned. Like, I'm not super opposed to these mega long videos. Maybe 3 is a little excessive. And honestly, if we could get to be uploading 3 of these a month, that would be cool. We might not be able to do that. We'll see. But anyways, if you've made it this far, comment your favorite and least favorite takes.
Give us your list,
yeah,
man.
give us your list, and then clown your worst takes. We can take it. So yeah.
Our cat will be going through and fighting back.
Comments.
We just won't say who's fighting back. It'll just be one of them.
That would actually be really funny. We're fighting for completely different sides and different comments, all from one account. But yeah, anyways, go ahead, stay tuned for more. And again, this one is actually getting recorded way before it goes out. Like, this was literally the infamous day Corbin set world record. So I think our pods, we'll be talking about some more.
Danny video.
Which one?
Danny put out a video today about Corbin getting a record.
Oh no, I have not seen that. I am excited to watch that.
I've seen the reaction, but I haven't seen.
I haven't been looking at any of that, so I'll go watch that after this.
We'll debrief.
We'll do some investigation, but yeah, I mean, some of these pods will probably be like more relevant to like the current happenings. This being an all-time list, we're good recording this way in advance and getting it out when we get a hang for the production side of things. But yeah, no, if you've made it this far, which I don't know, nobody might, which would be really funny. But yeah, no, if you've made it this far, we really appreciate it. And
there's got to be some real sickos out there.
Yeah. Now, hopefully you're just like, I don't know, you're doing something, you're listening to this in the background. But yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one.